Okay. So this is mostly for replay gang right now, so y'all don't hear or don't hear anything. So I plan on going from it is 4:20 Eastern Standard Time. I plan on at least going however far we can go until 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll be here for I'm committing to 2 hours, and I'm gonna speed them up a little bit on how they're talking because it's a lot of pauses. Okay, we are on the final day of the mic check, Lord. Hopefully my mic is okay. But we're on the final day of this trial. This happened a few months ago. I'm just now catching up, and I did want to look at it. This is Latoshia Daniels who killed her lover slash pastor, and they call it the He Broke My Heart murder trial. And we've watched her testify, forensic psychologist testify, some of the police that were on scene testify, the owner of the store. Oh, thank you, Paulette. Okay, cool. The owner of the store testified that she bought the gun from the same day that she then drove from Arkansas to Tennessee to the pastor's apartment with his wife. And but the whole thing is the defense seems to be hoping that the jury does not rule that this was premeditated. Obviously, if you've already watched this, you know the verdict and the sentencing and everything else. But we just wanted to watch it together. A lot of times people will come back to kind of redigest something they've already seen over here. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. All right. So there will be commentary. I wouldn't be up here if there wouldn't be commentary. So that means I will be pausing. This is the judge reading the jury instructions. I'm skipping the jury instructions, and I'm skipping where the defense wanted some of the language changed in the jury instructions because you can. I left the link so you can go back and watch that. We're going straight to getting back into the trial itself, or whatever is where it's supposed to happen right now. But we're on final day. Sentencing was on another day. Depending on how much time we have left, we might get through sentencing today as well. All right, so let's see.
1, the state has to prove that the defendant unlawfully killed a victim.
This is the state's closing. No, hold on. Let me do this right. This is the. Okay, yeah, state's closing argument.
2, the defendant must have acted intentionally. 3, the killing must be premeditated. So, what is considered unlawful? Well, what is considered unlawful killing? One example can be the defense of others or yourself. Intentional. What does it mean to be intentional? Does it seem like an accident? Does it seem like a mistake? Your jury instructions say that something is intentional if it's a person's conscious objective or desire to cause the death of another person. Number 3, premeditation. The killing has to be premeditated. And as we learned in Voir dire, premeditation doesn't have to be a specific length of time. It could be 2 seconds, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. There's no time frame. It just means that you had to think about your actions and you had time to reflect. That could be as simple as stepping out of your car, raising your arm, and the time it takes you to point the firearm at someone and shoot and kill them. Or in this case, it could be driving to the gun store, purchasing a gun, purchasing ammunition, leaving the gun store, driving 3 hours to Memphis to your married ex-boyfriend's house, and knocking on their door. So this week, we started off hearing from Tabatha Perry. She testified that her husband was an executive pastor in Little Rock, and later he moved to Memphis along with her for a new position at Mississippi Boulevard, a prominent church here in Memphis. She also testified that they knew the defendant. They knew her from Little Rock when he was previously working over there. And on April 4th, 2019, Mrs. Perry heard a knock at her door. When she went to her door, the defendant was standing there. Now, she thought it was odd that Ms. Daniels was standing there, but she didn't think too much of it because they had given their address out to several people at the church in Little Rock. After she let her in, Mrs. Perry and the defendant sat and talked about 20 minutes until Brodes Perry showed up. When Mr. Perry showed up, the defendant even told you that they sat and talked for a while. She even took a drink. And once she decided that it was time to go, Mrs. Perry and Mr. Perry led her out of their doorway. And as Mrs. Perry was leading her out of the doorway, she turned back and she saw the defendant reach into her coat pocket, remove a gun, and shoot Mr. Perry in his own doorway. Once she did that, Mrs. Perry looked to her neighbors for help. She tried to get help, and then when she saw her husband lying on the ground, she went to go help him. She pleaded with the defendant, "Why are you doing this? Why is this happening? Please stop." Well, not only did the defendant not stop, she shot Mrs. Perry. And not only did she shoot Mrs. Perry, she reloaded her gun. After Mrs. Perry, we heard from Detective Roberts. He testified that the very weapon that was used to shoot Mr. and Mrs. Perry was purchased hours prior to this incident. He testified that the defendant purchased that firearm at a gun store at around 4:30 that same day in Sherman, Arkansas. Detective Roberts told us that he spoke to Ray Palladino, the general manager of that sporting goods store. From Mr. Palladino, he received the surveillance footage. And that surveillance footage showed the defendant coming in, purchasing a gun, purchasing ammunition, and leaving. Mr. Palladino also provided Detective Roberts with a receipt. That receipt had the defendant's first and last name on it. It had the serial number of the Ruger handgun that she purchased and the last 4 digits of her credit card. It's the same credit card that Detective Roberts discovered in the defendant's vehicle when he searched it. We also heard from Dr. Curry. Now, Dr. Curry testified that she performed Mr. Perry's autopsy. She testified that the cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds and the manner of death was homicide. She testified to recovering the bullets, placing them in an envelope, initialing and dating them, and leaving them to be picked up. But Dr. Curry isn't the only doctor we heard from. Defense put on Dr. Bidding. Dr. Bidding was hired by the defendant and her team. And you heard her, she testified that she has testified for more defendants than she has prosecution. And ladies and gentlemen, think carefully about what she told you. She told you that depression and someone being suicidal does not mean that they cannot form the intent to kill someone. She also told you that she didn't even offer an opinion as to the defendant's mental state at the time of the offense. So what do we need? We need an unlawful killing, intent, premeditation. Unlawful killing. Well, there was no self-defense claim, and the only other firearm found in the residence, found in the crime scene, was in a box under a nightstand in a completely separate room. Intent. I wanted him to feel the pain that I felt. He broke my heart. You heard that from the defendant herself. Premeditation. We'll take your pick. Whether it's the drive to the gun store, the time it took to purchase, choose a firearm and ammunition, the time it took to drive 3 hours to Memphis to her ex-boyfriend's house, or the 20-minute conversation she had when she finally went up to their apartment. Criminal attempt first-degree murder. So in your jury instructions, you'll see what's on the screen right here. And that's a lot of words. But the judge is giving you the law. And the best way that I can describe it is that the defendant must have an intent to commit first-degree murder. But they fell short for some reason. The act wasn't complete. And that's how you have criminal attempt first-degree murder. We heard from Tabatha Perry, and she testified that she was shot in the shoulder. After the incident, she was transported to the hospital, and the doctors left the bullet inside of her. It wasn't until later that she had to get it surgically removed. It was causing her extreme pain. And by the time that she got it removed, it was poking out of her back. And even today, 6 years later, she is still suffering from pain from that incident. Now let's talk about transfer of intent. You heard in your jury instructions that sometimes when you intend to kill one person and you don't kill that person, but you kill another person, that is how the transfer intent happens. Tabatha Perry testified that when she spoke to police, she told them that she didn't even believe that the defendant meant to hurt her. But that's okay. Because you don't have to actually hit your intended target to be charged and convicted of criminal attempt first-degree murder. As long as you had the intent to kill one person, it doesn't matter that you accidentally shot or you actually shot someone else. Your intent is still there. The only thing that's different is the person that got hurt. Employing a firearm during a dangerous felony. So on the screen here, it says that any person who employs a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony is guilty of a crime. The state has to prove that 1, that the defendant employed a firearm. 2, the employment was during the commission of or attempt to commit criminal attempt first-degree murder against the alleged victim, Tabatha Perry. And 3, that the defendant acted intentionally, knowing, or recklessly. In addition to Mrs. Perry's testimony, we heard from Captain Draper, Officer McLean, and Special Agent Broxane. Draper testified that he and McLean were a few of the officers that responded to the crime scene on the offense day. And when he got there, he witnessed the defendant holding a firearm. She refused to comply with orders. Captain Draper testified to the non-lethal force that was used to unarm her. Officer McLean testified to securing and clearing the weapon that the defendant had in her possession. He noticed that there was nothing in the chamber, but yet there was a magazine in the gun. Special Agent Sane testified to the ballistics. He examined the Ruger, the casings, and the bullets from the medical examiner. He determined that all the cartridge cases and the bullets had been fired from that same handgun that was recovered off of the defendant. And now we're back at the beginning. You broke my heart. So I'm going to purchase a firearm. You broke my heart. So I'm going to purchase ammunition.
I also want to say, I know that they're leaning on the he broke my heart part, but I do feel like it's a he made a fool out of me motive more than he broke my heart. Yeah, she probably maybe actually loved him and maybe he did break her heart, but I really feel like all of that came from that he embarrassed her, even if just to herself, because you're reflecting, this man's breaking up with you. You're reflecting on how you were willing to be the side chick. No, a side sister wife chick, because there was more than just her. Then you're paying for things. He's basically like, okay, she's in the medical field. She was a licensed therapist. I'm saying was because I think, once this happens, you're gonna lose your license. But she was a licensed therapist herself, right? So she didn't use the tools she had to herself, but I think it's because she was honestly angry. He made her pay for stuff, including his cigar club membership fees. He wanted I'm gonna say he wanted a Peloton, but she said he wanted some kind of treadmill or something. But the only one I could think that's like that is probably a Peloton, but it don't matter. Just all these things she had to drive to him, even when it was church stuff. She had to pay her own way, so it wasn't even like he was treating her at all. It was just like, if you want to deal with me, and I kind of feel like dealing with you, you need to do all this stuff for me. I don't know really what she was getting out of it. And then per her testimony in her defense, he only wanted to see her in the hotel room if she was naked, because that's what they were there for, sex and basically nothing else. If she saw him out in public, she was not allowed to acknowledge him until he acknowledged her. If he had a medical emergency, she had to call the other pastor, deacon, whatever that man is, but that knows the dirt that Brodes, I think his name was Brodes, that Brodes was doing. And it was just like all these things, like don't call the ambulance, call whatever that dude's name was, all these things. So I just feel like she got mad because she was embarrassed, and that's where the rage came from, and that's why she shot him. I don't think it was just, oh my God, I cannot live without him. I think it's like, I can't believe I let myself go this far and do so much. And then this man got the nerve to tell me he want to break up with me over a disappearing text. I feel like that's what it was. And that's my opinion, though.
You broke my heart. So I'm going to take that gun and the ammunition and drive 3 hours away to your home. You broke my heart. So I'm going to knock on your door. You broke my heart. I'm going to sit there and talk with you and your wife for about 20 minutes. You broke my heart. So I decide to leave. You broke my heart. So I'm going to shoot you and kill you in your doorway. And along the way, shoot your wife. And it's okay, because you broke my heart. Decision after decision after decision. Ladies and gentlemen, if a broken heart was an excuse or a defense to murder, I wouldn't have a job. The standard of proof in this case is beyond a reasonable doubt. Not 100% certainty, not beyond all doubt, not beyond a shadow of a doubt. What's required is certainty that lets you rest easy at night. And now it's your turn. After you consider all of the evidence and apply the law that the judge has given you and use your common sense, the state is confident that your verdict will be guilty as charged. Don't let a broken heart distract you from the human life that was lost. Thank you.
Oh, honestly, so far, the only thing I disagree with is it was a he broke my heart motive. It was, again, I feel like Teresa said, she was embarrassed. And I don't think she intended to shoot the wife. I think the wife was honestly just physically in the way. I feel like she was only going after the dude. I really don't feel like she wanted to shoot the wife.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and go to defense's closing arguments, which is what I've been waiting on, because every time they was asking questions to the witnesses on the stand, I'm like, where are you gonna lead this to? What are you trying to convince the jury of? Because some of those questions, I'm like, okay. So let's listen to the defense.
All right, you may see it. Finish the mic up. Closing statement.
Yes, ma'am.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have told you from the very beginning that Ms. Daniels is not denying what happened. She is not saying, I have no responsibility. I have no accountability. That is not our position, and it has not been our position from the first time that we talked in Wood Island. We told you she is guilty of something, but she is not guilty of first-degree murder and criminal attempt first-degree murder and employing a firearm during a felony. That is not what these facts illustrate, unless you're looking at them from far, far away and ignoring all of the details and all of the intent. When I was in high school, one of the formative trips that I took, my mom and I went to Barcelona, and we went to the Museum of Salvador Dali. This man had the most amazing brain. He could paint pictures that from far away looked like one thing, and then when you got close up on them, looked like something completely different. And I will never, ever forget standing in the top balcony of that museum, looking across the way and seeing this. And there's a little plaque that tells you, squint your eyes and look at it. What do you see? I saw Abraham Lincoln. I absolutely saw Abraham Lincoln. And then when you walk back around, they tell you how to get up there. This is that painting close up. It's something completely different. Not only a different picture, but an entirely different emotional response. You would never think that that was the Abraham Lincoln that you had just seen. But that can be the difference between looking at something from far, far away and ignoring the details versus seeing the intricacies of what it is actually made of. I want to talk to you first about Brodes Perry. We've heard a lot about him this week. He was a pastor at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock. He was the leader of the life groups there. He was married to Tabatha Perry. This is what people standing far away saw. But when you got much more close, when you got to know Brodes Perry, the way Latoshia knew Brodes Perry, you started to see a different side. And sometimes even then, you miss it. He was a manipulative person. I know.
Nah, let's skip back to what they had. No, skip back to what they had on the screen. Hopefully I don't do too bad. I messed up and hit the wrong thing. Hold on. We might have to hear some of her speech over. I apologize, but I want to get back to that screen. Hold on. I know I'm close. I don't want to do too much. Oh, dang it. I did not mean to click that bar. Come on. Sorry. Dang. She must have been just in her stuff. Hold on. Because what I want to do is look at what she listed beside his name. Okay, hold on.
But that can be the difference between looking at something from far, far away and ignoring the details versus seeing the intricacies of what it is actually made of. I want to talk to you first about Brodes Perry in Little Rock. He was the leader of the life groups there. He was married to Tabatha Perry. This is what people standing far away saw. But when you got much more close, when you got to know Brodes Perry.
There we go. All right. Okay. So unless she's going to add some more bullets on here, I don't care if we're looking up close or far away. That woman talking about she's going to take herself out, the defendant, and then decided she bought a gun the same day, drove from Arkansas to Tennessee. Right now, the bullets on the board are manipulative. That sucks. There's a lot of people out here in this dating world that are like that. Controlling. That sucks. Definitely get out the relationship. I understand. He was a dirtbag. I get that. Ethical non-monogamy. He wasn't even ethical with it. He was just like moving weird and still not his wife didn't seem like she was with it. She possibly knew he was cheating, but I don't feel like she wanted to be a part of a whole polygamy type thing or a what's the other thing they call it? Polyamory type thing. I don't think she wanted to be that. But either way, even if all that's true, he lied, he manipulated, he controlled. I mean, some more bullets to come up because prosecution said self-defense never came up in this. So how close do we need to get up to understand why this man got shot 5 times? I understand he pissed her off. I get that. But I'm going to see how she gets us there, but this is not working right now. I will say this, though. She would make a great defense attorney for others. I love the analogy. It's just for the wrong defendant. I will say that. I acknowledge that she is doing her best with what she has, and she seems like a good defense attorney. Like I wish she would have had somebody else. I really do. Like other people could use her that need her.
The way Latoshia knew Brodes Perry, you started to see a different side. And sometimes even then, you miss it. He was a manipulative person. I know that he is not here anymore, and that is a tragedy. But that doesn't change the fact that during his time on earth, he manipulated the women in his life. He was controlling, and he wanted this lifestyle of ethical non-monogamy. Regarding the ethical non-monogamy, that was, when I talk about the manipulation of women in his life, that was a big source of it. He manipulated Tabatha into thinking, oh, well, this is just something that I thought about. It's okay that you don't want to do it. He manipulated Chriselle and Danielle, who he had the Marco Polo group with, in that he made this whole fiction where his wife was completely on board with this, and he was living this open, honest, and transparent lifestyle where he was ethically engaging in.
I hear her. Let's go back. Let's talk about this again. Here's the thing, though. If I'm the defendant and I tell you that he told me that the only time only state of dress I can be in when I'm in his hotel room is naked, we're not here for a quality relationship. You're making it very clear what we're here for. Then I can't acknowledge you in public until you acknowledge me. My mind's saying, oh, you're not in a real consensual, like you can just be with anybody and your wife's cool with it type relationship. What's the other thing? You're writing me with disappearing texts. We cannot be open with each other. Like that is something that as an adult, as a licensed therapist, she had enough mental competence to understand that there's no way he's telling me the truth, just like how he's telling me to move. I can't call the ambulance if you have a medical emergency. I got to call your 2 initial friend if something happens to you and you're dying. It can't be that manipulative. Like that is the most I cannot let nobody find out about you, and you don't need to be connected with nobody else. This is not ethical non-monogamy, whatever this is not it. Like make me understand via the defense how you're telling me that she could not figure out, even if his words were, oh, my wife knows, but then the things I just said, she doesn't know. They're definitely not in an open relationship. And then you never talk to the wife openly about the relationship. So if that doesn't come up either, so no, I'm so sorry. She got to get a different client.
Non-monogamy. As a pastor of the church looking for a group of people who would sanction his behavior. He found these women, educated women, and lied to them about this. He manipulated Latoshia in so many ways. But regarding the ethical non-monogamy, his position was, my wife says it's okay, so my girlfriend should not be saying no. Even to Latoshia, he lied about Tabatha being opposed to this lifestyle. When Latoshia got involved, she thought Tabatha was on board with this ethical non-monogamy, and she was not. We heard from Brodes Perry manipulating these women.
Those aren't an issue at home, but I get it, but it ain't an issue. I have been though, so let's switch subject and get a little more serious. For me, our agreements have been simple, right? No exes, nobody from Jacksonville, Florida, just home.
And he lying because does he preach this to his congregation, or he was like an assistant. He didn't have his own church. He was in there. He had the pastor title, but it wasn't his church. Did you ever hear him do a sermon about this? Because he's so open about it. Come on now. Sometimes we just want to believe the lies, and she chose to believe some things, and he's still a dirtbag. I'm just saying she is guilty of killing this man. That's all I'm saying. And it wasn't no passion of the moment stuff either.
For us, and nobody in the city that you live in, which means nobody matters. That was the case, of course, in Little Rock, outside of Girlfriend, because Girlfriend is in Little Rock. The way that kind of happened is, short version, when she decided to open up the marriage and allow me to be on the good side of her. Girlfriend is a therapist, right? And she didn't go there for therapy, but she asked her some questions. And based on this therapy session she had with this other lady. And she was asking her some questions after she had just said, bro, this is what I'm gonna let you do, about the bother, it is what it is. But from there, she asked her some questions. And so she was like, I just got a couple questions for you. And they would go play tennis together. She was one of my life leaders. And so we had rapport, we had rapport. And she asked a question and it was like, yeah, about this, think about this. And what do you think about this? Or what do you think X, Y, and Z could potentially be coming from?
And I don't trust people that blase everything and XYZ everything. I understand you pass some of the things that you can generalize, but I feel like when a lot of your conversation is, she said blase, what they say. That's like the Seinfeld episode that was like, don't yada yada past this part. Yada yada is very important. What are you skipping over? But I'm so sorry. I don't understand how, and just so y'all know, from what they showed, his audience that he's talking to right now is 2 women. He has an audience of 2, and they're not always signed in at the same time, it seemed like, either. So sometimes he's speaking to 1. He's not saying nothing deep. He wants to believe he is. I do feel like he thinks he's saying something great. But he is speaking to an audience of 2, and he told his wife that this was his book club too, by the way. But yeah, can somebody help me? No, I can't. She's a licensed therapist. I'm not doing this because she needs to be using some tools out of her own toolbox.
I'm sorry, I'm looking to see who was in the cigar lounge because this is not what I really frequent there. So I'm kind of careful about who potentially is in here because I don't want the blast off ass. I really want to go in and go shield in the back, but I'm not a member. But yeah, I'm trying to make that what's in there. But anyway, so the next thing that she shared with her was, my husband like you, right? What do you think you're attractive? And she was like, what? He's like, yeah, I know what he likes, and he thinks you're attractive. Not that he's been rude or anything like that. We had a conversation. Well, things like one time we was sitting around having a watch, and she asked me, I was like, you gotta get her. I ain't gonna get her. I'm coming across this creepy guy, right? We're trying to spice things up. And in that regard, that was even somewhat limited with the idea of somebody watching me. Which that's neither here nor there. But when the question came up, it was her right there. She asked, well, who would you want? And that was the first thing I said. She's like, I know you like her. I know you like her. So anyway, so she said, like, and she said, well, if you were interested, I'm not saying that you are, but I'll also say that I've given him this X, Y, and Z, and he may come your way. And she did. But she's like, okay, cool. So we had a conversation. And after that, that's when the whole nobody in the city thing came. But it was more like, I'll give you a pass with her because I essentially gave you the alley. But nobody. So I'm trying to figure this. So fast forward, I said, whole lot of shit. I'm trying to do it. So I've been thinking about the past couple of weeks in terms of expanding, my ethical non-monogamy. It's kind of so, I would check over there. Like, I got a couple questions. I'm just curious, she knows about the everything. So, like, when do you want to know? When do you want to know that there's someone who has my interest or someone who I would like to pursue? Do you want to know the moment that I feel like it's more than just banter? Do you want to know at the moment that I would like to begin to banter? Do you want to know once I feel like it might be a thing beyond banter? Or what? Because this is kind of new for us, right? Because girlfriend, Tasha, that's easy. That's been 2 years. That's been it for the most part. Outside of that, we going. That's out my birthday. But it's kind of been easy in that regard. So we're trying to figure out what does that look like. So I'm just kind of really thinking through where I am with that, right? Where in terms of so there's a lot of newness. And I said that there's still.
SG, you say you went to college with him? Like you talked to him too, or just he attended the same college? Because I wouldn't know how he was in college because he gets on my. I know he's the victim. He's not here no more, but his living self gets on my nerves. I'm so sorry. And I don't know if you've been watching the other days. So I just want you to know, I've already said it. I still think he's a dirtbag. I just don't understand how they're trying to say she didn't go there to shoot that man.
I say that just to say that there's still a lot of newness even in this ethical non-monogamy I'm wrestling with. And it's fun, right? It's fun. It's interesting. It's causing us to communicate and chat and really talk again about different things that we kind of, in a real sense, have been settled to some degree. But realizing that in this ethical non-monogamy, we got to keep things in pencil and not pen. Some things on pencil pen, right? There's some hard news. But gotta be effective in terms of what that looks like. So that's why I use somebody being sprung and giddy and all that stuff. I think because those flutters or those emotions, right, those initial thoughts are all kind of new and very much new because this person is brand new. Like, I don't know Cherie, right? I knew Tasha, there was some level of familiarity there. And that's simply how I've always engaged with it, right? With some level of familiarity. I cannot, whether being in the same class again until college or something like that, I've never kind of quote unquote cold called anyone. If that makes sense, because I don't think I'm that guy. So, yeah. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I don't know if I'm going to go in here, but now I'm thinking how far would we go downtown? Because I'm like, there's a lot of folk in there. I don't know if I trust who's in that room right now. Shit. I just need to do better with smoking houses, cigar houses.
Oh, SG. Oh, SG said, okay, so SG said earlier she went to college with Brodes. She said she talked to him. They were in NAACP together freshman year. He asked her out post-college while he was still married to the first wife in Jacksonville, Florida. Well, he's consistent. I'll give him that. Did he try to hit you with ethical non-monogamy? What was it then? Because I don't know if that phrasing was used so much yet, but what did he hit you with on that one? My wife is cool with it. This is what we do.
I'm just, your opinion matters to me because we are in this relationship. But at the same time, like I told us from the outset, I want to be respectful, but I also want to let you know that, your opinion matters. But at the same time, I don't want you to put me in a box, right? Because while we talk about it in theory, this is now the practice part. And with Tabby, perfectly fine with, the situation because how I've handled and been honest and transparent and open with her with regard to this current relationship, me expanding it is not an issue for me. Basically, she told me, hey, we can talk about it when you think it's worth talking about. But the way that you handle this, I'm fine with, and I trust your judgment because you haven't given me a reason not to. It's only 2 hours away, but yes, we were in Little Rock, so we were literally because it was at that point. My wife was like, "Yeah, nobody at home. Like, this is an exception because I kind of threw you that, but no, you ain't dealing with nobody out. Like, that was Jacksonville, so our heart knows that no Jacksonville was your hometown for us, no exes, and no place in your current city. Those are the hard no's, right? she got an exception because it was there that she realized, well, yeah, I don't think I want him to be dealing with all these people, all these women, and no doubt these women would be in the church because that's all we do is kind of hang around, or in the community or close enough. So it was kind of one of those things. But
those are clips.
Oh yeah, the jury's watching this right now, Teresa, because this is the closing. This is part of the closing argument for the defense. So they got to see some of this as it was presented as evidence in. I feel like the defense played it as their evidence early on, and then now they're using some in their closing. Because the one that they played earlier for evidence while the trial was still, or while they actually had witness testimony and stuff, you could see the icons of the two women that he had. That he had in this Marco Polo app. So that's how I know it was two. It was two. And I'm just like, are y'all buying this? Like, what? And I don't know the benefit. I don't know the benefit of even, because here's the thing. I'm not saying it still would have been good, but I just want to know their motivation. It has to be loneliness. It has to be because he took their money. At least he took Latoshia's money. I don't know if he took their money too, but it was like a treat me type thing, and then, he's, I'm gonna say average in the face because I be like, don't talk about nobody looks too much because somebody could come back and say something to you and then you like, ooh, reality check. So I was gonna say he was average. So, because some people ruin their lives over some, attractive people sometimes, but I don't know. But anyway, SG said, hell no, he asked me out to dinner. I declined. I felt it was inappropriate given he's expressed interest in me before and he was married. And y'all, okay, reconnected on Facebook. I got you. Yeah, I got you.
From approximately 13 videos where he talks and talks and talks, and none of it is true. None of it. You heard Tabatha sitting on the stand saying, my hard nose were all of those things and then some. My hard nose were him seeing anyone outside of our marriage. But that's not what he told Herschel. That's not what he told Danielle. That's not what he told Latoshia.
But if he was so open and his wife was scouting girls too, per the video, and he said he don't cold call, which I take that to mean he's saying he don't approach on his own a woman first. He kind of gets her to do it. How come none of the women ever met the wife and saw her being this bold and scouty and everything? Like you have to take responsibility for some things that would be common sense. Even if you didn't notice it right away, 15 days, 30 days in, it's like, how come I'm not getting to talk to the wife, but this is totally cool with her?
He created this world of lies, this alternate reality in this chat room where he got everything that he wanted. He got validation. He got to have this lifestyle where he was cheating on multiple women, and it was okay. It was okay that he, as a pastor, do those things. That's what those women gave him. And for Latoshia, she gave him whatever he wanted. And Tabatha was his wife. He took and took and took from these women. And the whole time, he was lying to all of them. I want to talk to you about Latoshia Daniels. From far away, Latoshia appears to be a professional, educated, well-rounded woman. She's a licensed clinical social worker and went into a profession to help people. Church member, active in the church, a life group leader, selected among the thousands of people in the church, and placed into a position of leadership by Brodes Perry. Did you notice in the one video, he said, what I typically do is engage with women from a position of familiarity. He knew how to attract the type of woman that he was looking for. And Latoshia, when you got to know her and you got to see all of the details that make her up, she was exactly what he was looking for. She was so vulnerable because of the happiness being completely drained from her marriage, from the total lack of any emotional connection with her husband of 8 years.
I believe that part. I believe she came into that church vulnerable. I don't know why she didn't seek professional help understanding that she got her license to get professional help, how she did not seek professional help herself, coupled with church. I'm not saying you can't do church too. I'm just saying I don't understand why she didn't go to someone she didn't know. It didn't have to be anyone she knew, because that's embarrassing. You don't want to be telling a colleague what's going on in your life with your marriage and stuff like that. But I don't know why she didn't seek out these same tools that she has available, that she's trained about. Being licensed and stuff like that is, I'm just looking at so many people saying they cried during their stuff like that because it was so hard to even get. So I know it wasn't just something that she got on a whim. What was the other thing I was going to say? I'm so sorry. During this trial, I did not get that she was a professional. I'm so sorry. I understand she was professionally trained and licensed, but I did not get that she was a professional from this trial, because nothing is making it make sense to me.
The traumatic history that she has had since a childhood, and always being told to keep a good face on. Her history of mental health, depression, suicidal ideations, suicidal attempts.
I think it's irresponsible too to be helping other people and you don't have yourself together enough to deal with you having suicidal ideations and stuff like that. I think that if you're not caring for yourself in a professional way that you believe in, you got your training in it, and then you're administering your training this way, but you're not helping, you're not using those tools. Again, I just find it very irresponsible, which is again why I'm saying I don't really see her as professional as the defense wants me to see her.
Her dependency on other people. He knew that when he got his claws in her, she would do anything to keep him with her, including keeping his secrets. He also knew that Latoshia would have to keep his secrets because she had just as much to lose as he did. He had to have someone who was in a good job with a good appearance, because if they found out about this affair with the pastor, she would lose everything. All of her clients, the life that she had built up in the church, her family's opinion, all of it would be gone. And he reminded her of that. From far away, their relationship, it wasn't a fair. It was absolutely wrong. And it was, neither of them took Tabatha's feelings into consideration. Neither of them. And they should have. Tabatha did not deserve that. But especially at the beginning, if you looked at that relationship more closely, there was a lot of love there. Latoshia built her life around this man. He liked bourbon, so she started learning bourbon. He liked cigars, so she started learning about cigars. She got him into running with her. They joined a biking club together. All of these things that they built. And this woman who came into this relationship so starved for love and affection was receiving it, finally. And she never wanted that to stop.
I hope I remember every point I have. So why cows? I'm going to just say, let me take out looking at her. I also agree with you, but even professionals, I agree with you, still can be groomed because there's still vulnerabilities. People are human. I agree with you on that, especially with the mindset of her. I agree with you on that. What I don't understand is before she met Brodes Perry, why did she not go into therapy with strangers, just licensed professional strangers that had the credentials to do it? How do you end up at the church there before? I just feel like you have access. That's my point. I'm not saying even when she met him, she couldn't be groomed. It's that part right there. Her defense said, he gave her the affection she was starved for. I'm waiting to hear the affection. This is her own defense. And I watched every part of this trial where the defense spoke, questioned people, everything. The defense never mentioned once about any affection. It was get in this hotel room, be naked, don't talk to me, basically. In public, don't talk to me. Again, I'll acknowledge you first if I want to talk to you. Where was the affection grooming coming from? And I'm using the word affection because that's what the defense is saying. I have not heard one thing of this man giving affection to her to latch onto. I feel like it would have been him or anybody almost. And that's fine. That's fine. People, that's fine. But what I'm not understanding is them hinging on this fact that she didn't know that the wife didn't know about her or these other women or whatever it is. When he made it so clear, I'm not letting anyone know about you, so this will always be secretive. It's just the gaps aren't connecting on those things. And I can still say he found a way to groom her. She probably did like the praise of at least becoming that, what is that thing called? Light leader or whatever he made her. I feel like she does need, what is that thing? Oh my gosh. It starts with an A. Not acknowledgement, but when someone validates you, like she did need validation. She needed to be involved in something. She needed to be seen a certain way. I do feel like she latched onto that. Even if she was groomed, she's not groomed in the way the defense is describing. There is no affection in this. It is very clear language that this man is past, but her defense is using, which means she told her defense this is how it went down. And I just don't understand some things. But I do get, doesn't matter what kind of education somebody has, the way I'm seeing the poor women out in this world, I get it. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how many degrees you have, you can be stupid over a partner. And I do get that part. I'm more over here on, I don't believe she was deceived on some things, and then that being why she got so emotional, and then she's still hinging or sticking to the fact that she wanted to take herself out, but somehow bought the gun the same day and didn't just go to wherever her childhood memory was that she said she was going to go to that park. I know she wrote the note to her sister, but she drives to the man's apartment, and the only person that's not here is the man. I'm back on her how can I say it? Her defense of why she didn't actually mean to kill him type stuff. But I do get that no matter what, a human's going to be vulnerable. They're going to make some stupid decisions, especially romantically. That's why people get scammed financially and everything else. I do get that. Her own defense has holes in them explaining to me on some things on her part, but I get you.
But when you looked at it more closely, you could also see Brodes behaving in a very controlling way, in a very manipulative way. And Latoshia was getting slung back and forth between these emotions of, oh, I love you. No, we're going to have some distance. This back and forth, pulling her heart in two pieces. And I will disagree with the state, because part of something that they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt is intent. And one of the things that you have to look at is whether a heat of passion was present. And a broken heart definitely has to do with heat of passion. There is no emotion more powerful in this world than love. When she was with Brodes, Latoshia was required to follow certain rules. Rule number 1 that she learned on day 1. You download the Confide app, you use it the way I tell you to, and you only communicate with me in this manner unless I tell you different.
But yet she was manipulated to believe he was in an open marriage. But you gotta only text in this app that disappears. That's what I'm saying. If the defense is talking about her thing is she was manipulated and all this other stuff, tell me the actual manipulation, because I believe anybody with some common sense is going to be like, oh, you're not in an actual open marriage. So I already know you're lying to me before we get started, because why do I have to text you on a secretive app? Like, where'd the manipulation come from that, oh, his wife knows? Because there's no way you can come to that conclusion that his wife knows and you have to use all this extra stuff. And then he talks to you about, I'm going to keep saying this. If I'm about to die, call my friend. Do not call an ambulance. If that rule is in your relationship, nobody can know about you, and the wife does not know, or she's not okay with it. She might know that he's been cheating, but she might have not, been okay with him cheating. A lot of people stay in relationships and they suffer through it.
Rule number 2, when Brodes took trips, Latoshia was expected to be there, and she had to pay her own way, whether she had the money to or not. Rule number 3, Latoshia was not to call anybody to come to them. Even in the case of a medical emergency, she was supposed to call Pastor Pointer. He knew about their relationship. He would get Brodes help, and nobody would have to find out about Latoshia. Rule number 4, Latoshia was not to approach him in public. He was only to approach her, because she didn't have a way of knowing if he was with someone for the church or with another pastor that may not know about their relationship. Very strict rules on what and when she could say to him. Rule number 5, when she was in a hotel room on one of their trips, she was to remain naked. Rule number 6, towards the end of their relationship, Brodes added that she should always respond to him with either yes, sir, or no, sir. And Latoshia followed all of those rules because she loved that man. And she loved the love that she felt like she was getting. And then things changed. On March the 15th, Brodes behaved in a very different way. He treated her like a piece of trash, like someone who was there for his use, not his love, not worthy of his affection. And something in Latoshia broke that day. And she decided that she was going to end her life. And yes, she did want him to feel that pain because it was so much pain in her. And she came and never once threatened him. There was never a single allegation that she put him in any danger or threatened him or ever even pointed the gun at him. She actually gave the gun to him once he talked to her for about 2 hours.
Here's the thing. Fine, she never threatened him beforehand. But that just tells me she don't talk, she's action. Because when it comes down to it, even if she never was threatening towards him before, he's dead. Because she did shoot him multiple times, and she is not dead. So it doesn't matter if you kept talking about it or not. And I know she's probably leaning back to she didn't have the intent that day to do it, but if I'm a juror and the store owner is showing me store footage of somebody buying the gun the same day, and then later that gun is used to commit a crime hours away from their home, and she even said, she was like, I was driving to my childhood park, and she said, I saw the exit for Tennessee, and I just found myself on the road for Tennessee. I'm sorry. I'm going to read your comment, Wakao. Sorry.
Brodes knew what to say to make Latoshia do what he wanted her to do. For good or for bad. And that day, he did get the gun from her. And he took the gun and kept it. She didn't see it after that day. Which brings us to April the 4th. Her gun.
I'm so sorry. I'm also going to have to say it's an implied threat because the gun that the defense attorney was just talking about was a gun before the gun she bought the day she killed him. This is a different instance. If you bring a gun into our room, our hotel room, and we're not on the best of terms, it's already an implied threat to me. So that is still a threat. That it already happened once. You don't have to point it at me for me to think it's a threat. Why is this here? But because and if you're going to take yourself out, I definitely don't think you care about taking me out or not. But it's an implied threat. But Wakao said, and I definitely don't think he loved anybody. It was not romance anywhere, but there was attention, and in her mind, it was good attention. I think she did like the attention. She probably liked the thrill of it for a long time too. With the rules that she named, if they're rules, that means to me that they were repeated until, it's locked in. For her, I guess she felt affection somewhere. She said, because she was coming from an affectionless marriage, and that's when she went to church and met him. So somewhere in him, she saw good. So I'm going to leave that alone. cows in her mind, she got some good attention. She stayed over there for a reason, and she only is not with him because he broke up with her. And then, of course, now she's killed him and everything. So, yes, somewhere in there, she had to think she was getting good attention. I will agree with you.
Brodes had put in a cigar locker in Little Rock. Latasha did not have access to that. She opened her, or did her normal good morning text to Brodes. And finally, when he responded, our time has come to an end. And then it disappeared. And in that moment of disappearing, 2 years of a life, of a relationship, of love was gone. And Latasha was still emotionally fragile from the traumatic experience on the 15th in March, still suffering from those pains, but trying to work through it. And she decided that she was right the first time. She didn't need to be in this world. She couldn't be in this world. Not anymore. She had built her whole life around this man. And he broke up with her in a disappearing text. She apologized to her family and tried to make them understand that this is not something that she just thought about, that she's been struggling, and that the struggle was just too much. For this deeply religious woman to feel like God couldn't answer her prayers anymore because she was so deep down in this depression is just heart-wrenching. And that was at 3:14 p.m. on April the 4th. I'm having some technical difficulties. Okay. There we go. And so, after writing that suicide note, she did go to buy a gun. She didn't have one anymore, and she was going to kill herself. Yes, she planned to go buy a gun. That happened. She did not plan to go buy a gun to hurt anyone other than herself. She walked in, and you heard Mr. Palladino talk on the stand about the range of sizes and weights and prices. If you recall, when he talked about 9mm weapons, he said the cheapest 9mm weapons are in the 200s. He said that the gun that she chose is a small gun. The gun that she chose is a light gun. And when she went to that store on April the 4th, she checked out at approximately 4:47 after going through the background check and clearing it. And if you look, that gun cost $229. She bought the cheapest gun they had and just whatever ammunition they told her to get, because this was going to be the gun to take her life. So why spend a lot of money on it? After she left the gun store, she went back to her house. She did not want to stay there long because she was afraid her adult son would come home. Poured the bullets out on the bed, grabbed a handful, shoved him in her pocket, shoved the gun in her pocket, and left after leaving him as much money as she could leave him. I think it was $500. She got in her car and she started to drive. She was not driving to Memphis, Tennessee. She was driving to Jacksonville, Arkansas, to Johnson Park. This was a place that had particular significance to her because of various names associated with it. Brodes Perry was from Jacksonville, Florida. Her ex-husband's last name was Johnson, and her dad's name was Ray. All of those were men that had hurt her in her life, but that she had also loved immensely. She did not want to commit suicide at home. She did not want her adult son to find her, to have to go through that. She knew that her suicide would be hard on him, but she didn't want that on him. At that point in time, she believed her son would be better off without him. As she's on the way to Jacksonville, Arkansas, she looks up and sees a sign. And that sign said, "This way to Memphis." And Latasha thought to herself, if I can just see him one more time, I can find out why he is doing this, why he wants this to be over. Maybe I can change his mind. Maybe he will see that he still loves me. Maybe he will tell me that I am still worth loving. Maybe he will give me that reason to live. And she drove to Memphis. I want to ask, how many times have you been in your car running through thoughts in your brain as they race, and you analyze and you're thinking, and all of a sudden you look up and you were like, how did I get here? I was on autopilot.
But you said she saw the sign. Autopilot, usually you drive where your routine is and you kind of get on autopilot. Like if you're used to the same way you go to work and go home, you don't even realize how you got through so many lights because you didn't notice them. And it's still okay. She was in a daze, she was in a trance, but she saw the sign. I know it's a minor thing, but I just feel like she didn't give her defense a lot to work with, in my opinion.
This was not a cool, calm, do kind of drive. This woman was planning to commit suicide. This was not a drive to hurt anyone. She wanted to talk to him, not to hurt him. And she did talk to him. She went to the Pocket, which is a cigar lounge in downtown. She knew that he goes there on Thursdays. His wife knew the same thing. It was a frequent place that he went, not just on Thursdays. And Latasha saw him and did as she was supposed to, walked past him until he acknowledged her. When he acknowledged her, they were allowed to engage, and she talked. They said that they sat there and talked for a long time, so long that the valet pulled the car away. And finally, by the end of the conversation, Brodes had said, look, we can be together if you're going to be okay with the ethical non-monogamy. And Latasha said, then I want us to tell Tabatha. And Brodes said, okay, we'll go tell Tabatha. You go to the apartment, talk to her about tennis, talk to her about, whatever. Tell her you're in town for a conference. We'll tell her together. And so Latasha goes to their apartment. It's unclear exactly what time she arrived at the apartment. It was somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, but either way, for the purposes of the timeline, we have that span that we don't have an exact time for. Some things we can get exact times for based on evidence, like that receipt, or if there's a phone call or something like that we can tie exact times to. We can't with this. Somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, Latasha indicated that she remembered the news came on. So fair assumption there, 9 or 10. And this was in Collierville. Tabatha answered the door, and Latasha came inside. They sat on that couch and talked for 10 to 20 minutes. At no point did Latasha ever raise a gun to Tabatha. At no point did Latasha ever threaten Tabatha. At no point did any indication that she was anything other than happy to be there happen. And then Brodes got home. And when Brodes got home, Tabatha described him as being very agitated when he saw Latasha. Did he think he called her bluff? That she wouldn't really go? He knew that she was having second thoughts. Did he really think that she was going to go into the apartment and tell Tabatha after 2 years? And she was there. And he was facing down the possibility of having to confess to his wife. And instead of doing that, he offered her bourbon. He talked to her about why she was in this why she was here for a conference. And Latasha, when he walks in, becomes confused and off balance because she thinks this big conversation is about to happen and he's just making small talk. Even going so far as to say, well, if you're drinking, we probably need to clear those clothes off the guest bedroom. Latasha had never been there. And when she was there, Tabatha testified and Latasha testified that she didn't go into any of the bedrooms. She stayed in the main living area. That's a picture of the guest room. How would Latasha have known that there were clothes all over it? Unless Brodes said we would have to take all those clothes off the bed. She and Tabatha and Brodes sat in that living room for 10 to 20 minutes, talking, with Latasha just waiting and waiting and waiting, thinking, well, he's talking about a bed. Maybe we're going to segue there. And he wasn't even making eye contact with her. At a certain point, he stopped even truly acknowledging her and just started talking to Tabatha. And Latasha realized he's not going to do it. He's not going to tell her. This doesn't mean enough to him. I don't mean enough to him. So I'm just going to go. I'm not going to bother y'all anymore. But she does want to know why. Just as a practical matter, does it make any sense that she was sitting inside of an apartment with a closed door where no one could see in for about 20 to 40 minutes? If she was intending on killing them, why would she not have done it when they were sitting in there in private?
Okay, this is where we have to speculate just because, we're here. They've already had this trial. Because I do think that she wanted him to say, I still care about you. I didn't really mean to send that text. I was just in one of my moods. And I feel like that's what she wanted to hear from him. I don't know for sure, that he told her, yes, we'll tell my wife together. I don't know. Do I believe that he said something about, if you drink too much, we'll have to clear out the guest room? Sure, he said that. Fine. But I just feel like it makes sense that they sat there for 20, 30 minutes talking because she was hoping he did say something, give her an indication. After this day, I still want us to be in a relationship. He did not. He sounds like he was dismissing her, and it pissed her off more. She already drove there. Let's just say she had the self-deletion ideations, right? She was going to the park where she had the memories. She sees the exit sign. She's in a days on autopilot, goes from Arkansas to Tennessee. Okay. She makes sure the gun is still in her pocket, heading up to the wife's in the apartment. He's supposed to be coming. Okay. And I'm guessing since prosecution didn't challenge it, she really, really did show up to the cigar lounge first and saw him there and all that happened. And either she said, if you don't tell your wife, I'm going to tell you, because somebody said that either in their opening statement or somewhere in this trial. I just can't remember. But it was phrased differently at first. It was phrased like she challenged him and he tried to call her bluff saying, okay, we can tell it together. Fine. Then she actually gets there, I guess, waiting on him to come because she already saw him at the cigar lounge and she knows at some point he's going to come to the apartment. Okay. And then he doesn't do anything he said that he was going to do. And that pisses her off. She even was crying on the stand talking about he didn't even offer to walk me to the car. So that was like the last straw for me, for her. But thinking about her, I think that was her last straw when she was getting up to leave. He didn't tell the wife, and she's looking like a fool because he won't even extend the courtesy to walk her to her car. He was going to let her walk back outside at night by herself, again showing there's no affection here, which I don't know what affection he showed in this relationship because nobody's naming an affection he gave at any point in time. It sounded like it was always rules. You are a piece of meat. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. But yeah, it's the 20 to 30 minutes does not matter to me in the sense of why she didn't shoot him as soon as he got to the apartment. To me, it's explaining more why she didn't shoot him till later because he pissed her off the last time. You already embarrassed me. You broke up with me through a disappearing text. Now you say we can talk to your wife. We're not doing that. You're just sitting here being real calm, cool, and collected, thinking I won't call your bluff. And then I think she did it. Like she did it. That's why. Not because of, I don't know what the defense, I know what the defense is trying to paint, but I don't see it that way. It makes perfect sense on how she shot that man.
Instead of after
Oh, I'm sorry, Teresa. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you being here. I'm always hoping y'all show up for these. So no, thank you and thank you very much.
Tabatha walks out the door into opening it up into the outside. She is outside. Latasha is standing in the doorway. If this was a cool, calm, reflective judgment, why would she wait until that point in time? If this was the plan, why would she have not done it inside the apartment? Does that make sense? But instead of harming anyone inside of that apartment, Latasha got up to leave. And when she got up to leave, Tabatha went first and came out the door. And then Latasha was standing in the doorway and Brodes was slightly behind her. Tabatha made it all the way down to the stairwell before she realized that Latasha and Brodes were not behind her. When she turned around, she saw Latasha pull out a gun and shoot Brodes. That happened. What she didn't see and what she didn't hear was the conversation that Latasha and Brodes were having at that door, where she said, "Walk me to my car. Be a gentleman. It's nighttime. Just walk me to my car." And Brodes just said, "Tabatha will do it." That
Because he wrote her off for her for the last time. You can't even walk me to the car. I done bought this expensive treadmill, bike, whatever. I pay for your memberships for the cigar lounge. I pay my way to go on these trips. You only want me when I'm naked in the hotel room. I even tonight can't even talk to you till you acknowledge me. Yeah, last straw was he wouldn't even walk her to the car. I'm so sorry. Bam Bam, welcome back. Because I didn't know you'd be in there. So I'm going to say welcome back to the Trinity Tribe.
emotional whiplash of being on the verge of killing herself to finding this hope that she can have the life that she has been trying to have with this man, to the disappointment of being dismissed by him, to this moment of just indifference, shattered her. Absolutely shattered her. And when she reached into her pocket to find her keys, she found her gun. And when she pulled her gun, that was not a calm and cool and reflective action. That was a heat of passion. She was so emotional in those moments. She did that act, but that was not a cool and calm act. That was a result of passion. As she's firing shots, she's yelling, "He broke my heart. He broke my heart." And when Tabatha starts trying to get close, Latasha tells her to stay back. And Tabatha, who is very confused in the situation at this point, dives in front of her husband and tries to shield his body with her body. And during that process, had a bullet hit her in the shoulder. When she said, "Latasha, you shot me," Latasha said, "I didn't mean to shoot you." And Tabatha even told the police that she believed that Latasha was not trying to shoot her. Tabatha felt like all of this emotion was directed at Brodes, because it was. But it was a lot of emotion. Officers arrive on the scene at 22:36 military time, 10:36 non-military time. When the police arrive, Latasha still has the gun in her hand. Tabatha had told her, "Go, just go. They're coming. I can hear the sirens. Just go." And Latasha couldn't move. She couldn't move. And when the police were yelling at her, telling her to put down the gun, what they saw and what they described was her staring blankly and talking softly to herself and repeatedly putting the gun up to her head or up to her mouth or up to her chest and eventually crouching down on the ground. And Officer Dunlap testified that he would have noticed that that slide was back and that chamber was empty. He didn't see that. The circumstances when the police got there, they're trained to assess. And they have this thing called the use of force continuum that officers kind of make a judgment on. Do I need to put my hands on this person, soft hands? Or do I need to pull my sidearm and kill this person? And there are things in between. Do you believe that if the police thought that she was about to shoot the officers or Tabatha or Brodes in that moment, do you have any doubt that they would have shot the guns that they had trained on her? They opted for a non-lethal force because at that point in time, they deemed her a danger to herself.
I'm going to go back and play the sentence or the question she just asked, because they don't really know what's all going on yet. They're responding. There is a victim. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Don't know. Maybe it could have been self-defense. They don't know yet. Them not shooting her at that moment does not mean to me that. Let me go back and play her question again. Hold on. Let me make sure I say this right.
Force in that moment, and there are things in between. Do you believe that if the police thought that she was about to shoot the officers or Tabatha or Brodes in that moment, do you have any doubt that they would have shot the guns that they had trained on her?
Okay, she'd already shot Brodes. That's probably what confused me when she put Brodes in the conversation. Brodes was already shot. Aren't they looking at Latoshia, the defendant at this point, outside the apartment? Brodes is bleeding out on the ground in the apartment, isn't he? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's right outside the apartment. I don't know. But she's already done what she's going to do. She's pointing the gun at herself now. I just think they didn't shoot her because they didn't see her still trying at that moment to kill somebody else, and she was making motions as if she would shoot herself. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that she wasn't. I don't think that weighs on if she did or didn't intend to kill Brodes. That's what, because that's their whole point is she's trying to prove she didn't have actual intent to do that. I don't know. She wasn't going on a killing spree. She wanted Brodes and she got Brodes. So I don't understand how we're tying in what the cops chose not to do, because she already did what she came to do. So thankfully for her, they did weigh it out and be like, okay, she does have a weapon. We don't think she's about to shoot us. We don't think she's about to shoot anybody else. So they didn't shoot her. She's very, very lucky about that. But I don't. The question to me does not help with the intent of the act that already happened for me.
They opted for a non-lethal force because at that point in time, they deemed her a danger to herself. There is no part of what those officers saw that was cool and calm and reflective in Latoshia Daniels. They saw a woman in an emotional crisis. While the police were there, after Latoshia was taken into custody, they called the EMTs who came and rendered aid to both Tabatha and Brodes. They were then taken to the hospital where they both underwent surgery. Tabatha, thankfully, was okay. Brodes was not.
I also want to say that and I know she's the defense, so she has to play this strong hand. The strongest card she's got is crime of passion, crime of passion, crime of passion. Oh my God, what was I going to say? Oh my gosh. Oh, because she made a statement like she was not cool, calm, and collected. She was emotional. There's many, many people in prison that the crime of passion defense doesn't work just because you're emotional and you shot somebody. You have to meet whatever the rule is for crime of passion. You have to meet that. Just being emotional is not crime of passion. That's what I was going to say. So yeah, she probably was emotional. still does not mean that was a crime of passion at that time.
He did die as a result of these gunshot wounds. That has never been in dispute. There are several things that are not in dispute. It's just a difference of whether you look at it from far away or come in close to actually analyze it, to see the details that make it. Tabatha came in to testify, and she talked to you about what she saw on April the 4th and what she experienced. And she was utterly confused by all of this because she had no idea what was going on. She had no idea why Latoshia would be there because Brodes hadn't told her that he saw her earlier in the night. She had no idea that Brodes and Latoshia had had a 2-year-long relationship. That this woman was desperately in love with her husband. She had no idea. And that wasn't fair to her. That absolutely was not fair to her. But even Tabatha came forward to say that she didn't think that Latoshia meant to shoot her. She also told y'all that she watched the clips that we watched before. She never said any of those things. She never had those conversations. She never had those conversations with Latoshia. She didn't alley-oop him any woman. The hard nose for her was anyone. But he lied to his wife about that. And he lied to Latoshia about that. He lied to Chriselle and Danielle about that. The police department then start their investigation. They took Tabatha's statement. Chriselle actually reached out to the police department to provide them these videos because she believed that Tabatha knew all of this, that this would be so helpful to them because obviously Tabatha knew everything and he was being so honest and transparent that they needed to have this information. Instead, they handed over evidence that showed that Brodes was manipulating all of these women. They collected their...
So then why did the defense say earlier that when the defendant went to the cigar bar, basically the conversation ended with, okay, let's go tell your wife. You can't say that and then also claim I was giving them this because I assumed Tabatha already knew about this. But you just said you was going to go tell Tabatha about y'all. You can't have both. You cannot have both. Either you thought she knew, and that's why you handed over the stuff because it wasn't going to be a big deal, or you thought she didn't know, and that's why you say at the cigar lounge, Brodes was going to follow or, come to the apartment with you and tell Tabatha. Can't have both.
Receipt, they collected the video surveillance from the gun store. They did a faraway view of what this was. And they looked at it and said, well, she bought a gun, she drove to Memphis, she went to Collierville, and she shot them. None of those facts are in dispute. Not a single one of them. But there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. When she made that drive, she didn't go straight to Collierville. When she made that drive, she went downtown. Dr. Erica Curry came in and testified, talked about the gunshot wounds, trajectories, things like that. The fact that Brodes was shot multiple times is not in dispute. The fact that Latoshia is the one who shot him is not in dispute. She is not coming here to tell you, I didn't do this. She's coming here to tell you that when I did this, I was so overcome by my emotions that I behaved in a way that I would not normally behave. I would note with the autopsy, it does show no stippling, no muzzle imprint. What that means is that the barrel of the gun was 3 feet or more away. When Latoshia was describing where everyone was sitting, and I believe Tabatha did too, Brodes was sitting directly next to Latosha. He was in the blue chair. She was on the end of the couch. She was within arm's reach of him. And nothing happened. The other doctor that testified was Dr. Bidding. She is both a clinical and a forensic psychologist. The difference in those two things are one can kind of look at your whole picture and gather information for a legal process, and the other one can gather your whole picture and look at it for a diagnosis process. She does both of those things. And she has a very impressive CV to go along with it. And when she met with Latosha, she did find a significant trauma history. She did not find malingering, which means no evidence that Latosha was not being honest in her answers on these psychological tests. She actually found that she tended to underreport her symptoms, which was consistent with her history of always having to put on a good face. Dr. Bidding does not just blindly rely on what someone tells her. She listens to what someone tells her and then compares it to outside sources, especially for that legal process. And she did that here. And she found evidence to corroborate what Latosha was telling her. She read the police reports, including narratives about Latosha's appearance on the scene. She read Tabatha Perry's statement describing what had happened. She watched the video of Brodes Perry talking to Chriselle and Danielle about seeing Latosha at the cigar bar that night before going home to Carterville. He read Latosha's journals. She read Latosha's journals. And all of those corroborated what Latosha was telling her. She had a history of depression, and she would not, the state was right, she would not offer an opinion on her state of mind at the moment of the offense. And that's what matters legally, is at the moment. However, she did have a position about her mental state around the time of the offense. The reason that she could not speak to at the moment of the offense was because Latosha has trouble remembering those moments, just like Tabatha did, because trauma can do that to your memory.
Did Tabatha, the wife, have trouble remembering details when she gave the police report on that night, or once she got on the stand years later? Because that's two different reasons. Also, I do understand what she's saying, though. Trauma will make you forget some things real fast. I get that part. I guess I was about to kind of start guessing on if the defendant experienced trauma, but I don't know, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But I'm with prosecution when they say it's real convenient when you blacking out from the time you pulling out that weapon to the time you done shooting, and then I think she starts remembering again once the cops get there or something like that. I don't know. And I know for everybody, sometimes it is going to be true. I'm not feeling it for her that's true on this one because of the other stuff that's really inconsistent, but it still could be true. That's just my opinion. Hey, Crystal Gal. Thank you for joining the Trendy Tribe.
Around the time of the offense, again, corroborating by all of those items of information, she believed that Latosha was exhibiting depressive symptoms and emotional dysregulation. She was in turmoil. She told you sometimes people who truly want to die are hoping that someone will give them a reason to live. And that's what Latosha was doing here. When she parked her car in downtown Memphis, she truly wanted to die.
Here's the thing. Okay, let's say she truly wanted to die. So do people that truly want to die, they want someone, a specific someone, to give them a reason to live. If that specific someone does not give them a reason to live, do those same people kill the person that did not give them a reason to live? And I know sometimes it happens, but I'm just saying, she's saying it like that's what she wanted, but now it turned into the man's dead or whatever. So I'm just wondering about that too. Like, yeah, it kept taking turns. It wasn't just the fact that he didn't give her a reason to live. He in her eyes, he gave her a reason to kill him, and she didn't take herself out.
But she was hoping with every part of herself that Brodes would give her a reason to live. Latoshia talked to you, and she told you her story. From a young age, all the way up to reaching out to Brodes for counseling, through their relationship, about his rules, about her love, about the fact that he had told her that Tabatha was on board with this. He just hadn't told her yet about Latoshia. She told you about that emotional whiplash that she suffered for that last month leading up to April the 4th. She was getting pulled by her heart in so many different directions. And she talked to you about the fact that the moment that her hand went into her pocket was a moment when she was shattering. That was the word that she used. In that moment, she shattered. The timeline in the case supports what Latoshia told you happened. At 3:14, we have a suicide note written, which is before going to buy a gun. She then takes a quick trip home and then leaves for the park. Driving down 440, where there's a split for Memphis. She proceeds towards Memphis and arrives downtown, speaks with Brodes for a long time. Latoshia then drives to Collierville, sits in the parking lot, calls Brodes, starts to have some second thoughts, and Brodes says, no, go on in. Go on in. Latoshia goes to the apartment. Tabatha lets her in. They talk for 10 to 20 minutes. Brodes arrives back home. They talk for 10 to 20 minutes. And then Latoshia says, I'm going to leave now. Police respond at 22:36, again, 10:36 Central Time. And by 10:36, Latoshia is still standing there with the weapon in her hand. If she left Arkansas at 5 o'clock, and it only takes 3 hours to get to Collierville, why was it 10:36 when police arrived? Unless there was something that happened in between. And we know that there was something that happened in between because Brodes made a video saying, guess who I just saw as I'm walking out of the cigar lounge? All of that corroborates what Ms. Daniels came here to tell you. And I can tell you, sitting on that stand is not easy, especially talking about the things that she had to sit up there and talk about. She's not proud of what she did. She is extremely remorseful for what happened that day. When the prosecutor during cross-examination said, you went there to shoot him, didn't you? She said, no, ma'am, I loved him. I would never hurt him. No, that was not my intention because she didn't come to Memphis to hurt him. She was planning on hurting herself. And she walked into that apartment happy to be there in the hopes that she would get some semblance of that love back. Very briefly, I'm going to talk to you all about the law. You have your jury instructions.
Okay, before she goes into the law part of it, Leia's grandma, thank you for gifting a trendy membership. Okay, I really hope this is not a literal bot because it went to botnet C2. So I really hope this is a person that got the gifted membership. YouTube does this thing and usually chooses people that interact a lot, even if it's more from the bushes. So I really hope that that's a person that they like to do the little clever names and stuff like that. But thank you so much, Leia's grandma. I put a poll in here about do y'all think that the victim really did tell Latoshia to go to his apartment with his wife? And if you want to do the interactive thing, you got to put a 1 for yes, 2 for no in there. But let me know what y'all think about that part.
And there are some that I would like for you to cue in on because they're very important. If you remember during jury selection, Boydire, we talked about criminal offenses and what's required. And what's required is an act and an intent. You have to have both. When you look at what are called lesser included offenses, the act never changes. The intent is what changes. On count one, the lesser included offenses are all of the offenses: first degree murder, second degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, reckless homicide, criminally negligent homicide. As I told you, Latoshia Daniels pleads not guilty to first degree murder. I submit that the appropriate charge in this case, as it pertains to Brodes Perry, is voluntary manslaughter. Voluntary manslaughter is an intentional and knowing killing that occurs during a heat of passion. That is exactly what the facts before us in this trial have laid out. Premeditation requires the exercise of reflection and judgment, careful consideration, sufficient freedom from excitement and passion so as to be capable of premeditation. When you are in that emotional state of passion, you can't reason properly. That's why premeditation requires the absence of all of those emotions, to truly and thoughtfully judge and reflect on your actions before you take them. The emotions cloud that ability and impair that ability. A heat of passion means any of the human emotions, known as anger, rage, sudden resentment, terror, or similar emotions, which render the mind incapable of cold reflection. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what we have here. This was a voluntary manslaughter. This was not a first degree murder. And I told you from day one that Ms. Daniels was not coming here to tell you I didn't do anything wrong. She knows what she did was wrong. She feels that every day. But that doesn't mean that was a cool premeditated act.
Why is it that every time we've watched the trial so far, except maybe YSL, when the defense is half of the defense is giving their closing statement, the other half of the defense is nodding off to sleep. The camera caught the man asleep, y'all. He was nodding off. Them eyes was closed. Their head was bowed, and it was not in deep thought. Why do they? I know they be tired, but I don't know. You can't be doing that in the courtroom. Like, you got to stay up by any means.
Count two, the account pertaining to Tabatha Perry Archie. Criminal attempt first degree, criminal attempt second degree, criminal attempt voluntary manslaughter, and reckless endangerment. Those are the lesser included offenses as they pertain to her. I submit to you that the actions that led to Ms. Perry's injury was reckless endangerment. The process that involved Ms. Perry getting shot, she actually put herself into that line of fire, and Ms. Daniels did not even mean to shoot her. Ms. Perry even believes that Latoshia was not trying to shoot her. Tabatha told the police that. Tabatha told y'all that. The police told you that. She tried to shield Brodes, and in the process she got hurt. And that was an unacceptable risk that Latoshia took when she fired those shots. And she should have known that firing those shots in that apartment could have ended up hurting Tabatha. And that's exactly what happened.
Look, he over there dying. He did it again. Here you go. Look at him. He is dying. Like, wake up.
Hurting Tabatha. And that's exactly what happened. The definition of recklessly in your jury instructions is found on page 9. And that is where, when you look at reckless endangerment, it will refer you back to the other definitions. That's where you find recklessly. A person acts recklessly when they are aware of but consciously disregard a risk that is substantial and unjustifiable that the alleged victim will be killed. Because it's under the reckless homicide, they refer to actual killing. It's applicable also to the reckless endangerment without a killing. The risk must be of such a nature and degree that its disregard constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care that an ordinary person would exercise under the circumstances as viewed from an accused person's standpoint. She had absolutely no intention to hurt Tabatha, but firing those shots was a risk that she would. And she did hurt Tabatha. I submit to you that the appropriate charge on count 2 is reckless endangerment. All of these must be proven by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. And we talked for a long time in voir dire about beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution must present evidence that is so convincing that it leaves no other logical explanation for the facts except that the accused is guilty of the charged offense to a moral certainty. One of the elements that must be proven is the intent, is Latoshia Daniels' intent. So if you come down and you have one version of this event where this is a cool, calm, premeditated murder, and you have another version of events where this is a woman who was in an emotional distress, and both of those are reasonable based on the evidence, then the state has not carried their burden as to first-degree murder. The appropriate charge would be voluntary manslaughter. And that burden is very, very high. You can see both of those things if you step back and look at it and understand that while you may see two faces, you may see an apple core. And it's reasonable to see both of those things. No matter which one you looked up and immediately saw, or which one you prefer, both are reasonable as an explanation of what you see in that picture. This is the state's case from far, far away, looking at these facts. Facts that are not in dispute, but they are missing the actual picture and showing you something that isn't really what this was. I'm asking you to look at all of the evidence that has been presented to you over the course of this week and to see the details of what that picture actually is. Thank you. Any jurors in the morning?
She definitely did her very best. And y'all probably already know the verdict because it's been out for a while, but do y'all think that if you had been on the jury, she would have convinced you to lower it from like first-degree murder to, I know it was reckless for the wife getting shot, but do you think she also could have lowered it? In your mind, would she have convinced you to lower it from first-degree murder because Latoshia was in distress? I want to know.
Say, You've heard all the evidence and most of the arguments. And the assumption at this point, based on our history, is I'm not going to be up here for an hour and a half, right? And I thought about that yesterday and more today, and I hope you appreciate that. But I don't want you to take that to mean that I don't have anything to say about this case, or that I don't want you to understand how significant that the proof is in this case, because it's significant. And it's almost so clear that it just doesn't take a whole lot of time to explain it to you or to prove it to you. So if I can just take a few minutes to go back through there just to remind you of what we're looking at. The proof is clear even by her admission that she got a text that morning and said this relationship is over.
All right. So I apologize. Didn't say anything about when he came back up. So this is the state's rebuttal. And he doesn't take as long on this. And then we're going to go to the jury's verdict.
I don't want to be in it. And that shouldn't have been, and probably wasn't, a huge surprise to her. Because for the past months, weeks, she was even going to break up with him at one point. You know, really since he had moved from Little Rock, the relationship hadn't been the same. So what did she do in response to that? And she can tell you, this is what I plan to do. But the proof is she immediately went to buy a gun and immediately drove to Memphis to find him. 3 hours. And that's not disputed. She says, I was going to kill myself. But she wound up in Memphis with him. And she wound up at his house. She was still there when the police arrived. She shot him multiple times and shot Tabatha Perry Archie in the process. I mean, that's overwhelming proof of intentional premeditated murder, and she agrees all that happened. Do you remember there was a discussion, I believe it was in jury selection, about we do things different here than we do in the real world? I mean, I don't really know what that means. Because what we know is that in the real world, Brodes Perry is not here to tell this story. That he was shot and killed in his own home in front of his wife. And we know that Tabatha was shot while kneeling next to her husband, trying to protect him and help him and begging her to stop. You know, there's a lot of talk about reflection and judgment and cool, calm, and collected. Well, she was cool, calm, and collected enough to say, according to her, Tabatha, get out of the way. She doesn't remember anything, but she knows she didn't mean to shoot Tabatha. I mean, that's in the real world. And this is hard, I know. Talking about Tabatha, it's a good time just to point out, I mean, there is transferred intent. And so we don't have to prove she was trying to kill Tabatha. Just that she was trying to kill somebody, and she was trying to kill somebody. She did kill somebody. And in that process, she shot and caused serious bodily injury to Miss Archie. So when you have a case like that, with those facts that line up perfect, I get the text, I go buy the gun, I drive to Memphis, I show up at his house, and I shoot and kill him. You got to come up with something as a defense, right? So the defense is, I'm the victim. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute, but I want to talk to y'all a little bit about who she is, who is claiming that she's the victim in this case. It's an almost 40-year-old grown woman who has a doctorate degree, who has been twice.
I don't know who out here stomping or banging on something while he's speaking, but I'm distracted. It's not me that is actually in the video. They're distracting me with whatever that is.
Married and twice divorced, who runs her own business, and who voluntarily entered into and started this affair with Brodes Perry. She admitted that. I liked the way he made me feel. I was wanting that kind of relationship at that time. She knew he was married. She had dinner with, she played tennis with his wife. She knew that Tabatha wasn't aware of this affair. You know, that there's rules. Brodes had rules. I mean, one of the rules was we've got to talk to each other on this app that's not easily traceable. Is that a rule? Or is that what you would expect? Two people who were married because they were both married when it started, that they might come together and say, you know, we probably don't need to text each other and email each other on our phones and on our computers because we got to hide this. Is that a rule? Is that manipulative?
I thought about it too. That must be a good app because nobody presented any text history between them. So that app must be really good at getting rid of messages and things.
Can't go out in public with just the two of us because we don't want to be seen as a couple. Is that a rule? Or is that what you expect? When two people who are married decide they're going to have a sexual relationship and hide it from their spouse. Is that manipulative? Did she ever say anything about he forced me to be in this relationship? Did I miss something with that? Or did she say she liked it? She wanted to be in that relationship. I can't put your plane tickets on my card. Is that a rule? Is that what you call that? You know, she couldn't make one trip, so she said, So I decided to go on the Jerusalem trip because I couldn't make it on the wherever the other trip was, Cuba or something. So, hey, I want to go on this other one because I didn't get to make that one. Is that you're expected to go? Or you want to go hang out with the married guy of my friend at a hotel room in Israel? Which is it? I don't want you to call 911 if there's like some kind of medical emergency. If you're staying in a hotel room with the person you're having an affair with, do you want her calling 911? How does that make Brodes Perry manipulative? She drank bourbon with him. She smoked cigars with him. She knew about his interest in this book. She read the book. She understood that he was interested in this non-monogamy lifestyle. She even tried to recruit one of her friends to help him out with that. A 38-year-old grown woman with a doctorate degree who run a business and has been twice married and twice divorced. You know, one of the things that happens when you kill somebody is there's only one side of the story that gets to be told because there's only one person that's left alive. And so we spent a lot of time talking about how bad Brodes Perry was. We played videos for his widow and made her sit there and say, no, I didn't know that. He was lying to me. It seems illogical, but it's sometimes easier to feel sympathy toward the person who's still alive than it is the person who died, because that's the only story you get. And she made terrible decisions. And you feel bad for her because she made those decisions. But they were her decisions. If Brodes was here, would he say, I'm sorry, I wish I hadn't done that way? We'll never know, will we?
He got me when he said she makes terrible decisions. I'm like, that's what I've been saying. She just makes bad decisions. I was wondering, and he just said, how do you think Brodes would be? We'll never know. I wonder, would he still be alive had he walked her to the car? Because that really does seem like the straw that broke the camel's back. After all that, I've been talking 30 minutes, you're not acknowledging our relationship in front of your wife. And then I'm like, you're not going to walk me to the car? And he's like, no, Tabatha can walk you to the car. I just feel like, had he not said that and had he walked her to the car, do y'all think he'd still be alive? Because she asked for below bare minimum on a lot of things. So I do wonder that, like, with that one change, would he still be alive right now?
Did he make mistakes? I want to quote to you from the jury instructions because I think it's important, because you can't look at her and say, I feel sorry for her because she made that decision. This is a quote. You can have no prejudice or sympathy or allow anything but the law and the evidence to have any influence upon your verdict. So feel sympathy toward her, but don't let that affect your verdict. You'd be inhuman not to feel sympathy toward her. But we talked about earlier during jury selection how sympathy and prejudice are not appropriate, and how you look at the facts, and if you determine that she intentionally, unlawfully, and premeditatedly killed him, it doesn't matter how sorry you feel for her, because you're not supposed to use sympathy. Was Brodes honest? He lied to his wife. He lied to his church. He lied to two people in a book club on an app where they sent videos back and forth to each other who he had never met. You want to be married to Brodes? Maybe not. Did he lie to the defendant? I don't know if we know that. I mean, she knew he was married. She knew they were having the affair. She knew Tabatha didn't know. She knew about the book. She knew he wanted the non-monogamous lifestyle. She knew that early in the relationship. She read the book. What do you lie to her about? Probably more honest with her than he was anybody else. You may have lied to her. Lying and being immoral is not a capital offense. Latoshia Daniels also made a lot of choices. She got to tell you she's not proud of them. Brodes didn't. She made a choice to start the affair. She made a choice to continue the affair. She even made that choice after she claims that he made her feel bad in the hotel room to continue that affair. She made the choice to hide the affair. She chose to go purchase a gun after she got that text. She chose to drive from Little Rock to Memphis. She chose to go to the Perry's house. She chose to take her gun into their home. And you'll note that premeditation, if done prior to the act, like, so you can premeditate a murder, and then you can go to do that murder, and you can be overcome by adrenaline, excitement, any other emotion you can think of. But if you premeditated it before you do that, and then you follow through with the murder, that doesn't negate the planning that you did beforehand. Why didn't she shoot him when the door was closed? Think about it all you want to. It's probably hard to pull out a gun and shoot somebody, even if you plan to. You can plan that all the way from Little Rock to Memphis, and it still may be hard to pull the trigger. She made a decision to shoot and kill Brodes Perry, and she made a decision to shoot Tabatha. One of the defense witnesses was Dr. Bidding. What do we glean from her that's helpful? Because I don't doubt she was depressed, and that's what Dr. Bidding said. She was depressed. And I'm not taking that lightly. Depression is an awful disease that affects millions of people. But Dr. Bidding said it doesn't mean that you can't. Sorry, Dr. Bidding said it doesn't mean that they commit violent acts because they're suffering from depression. Depression doesn't cause that, and depression doesn't cause you to lose your ability to plan, use judgment. And she specifically said that that depression is not a cause of impulsivity. So if depression doesn't negate intent and premeditation, it doesn't keep her from being cool, calm, collected, it doesn't keep her from using reflection and judgment, is that helpful to us?
I will say, if I was in the jury, they would have had a hard time convincing me, and by they, I mean the other jurors would have had a hard time convincing me that it was not premeditated. That's the part I just feel like what are you going to tell me that's going to make me not think this is premeditated? And he made a good point. She could have planned before, and then also in the moment did it in a emotional distress way, but you still planned it. It was going to happen. I don't know if they could convince me to lower the charge because, okay, it wasn't premeditated. Like, how are you going to tell me that when she drove from state to state and got the gun the same day? That they'd be mad at me because I'd be like, but I don't understand. How are you canceling out premeditation? How? The most you can convince me is that maybe she planned a murder-suicide and then she didn't go through with the suicide part. But you could not get me to get off of that premeditation train. I don't believe you could have. So Leia's grandma said after another failed relationship, she was desperate and feeling like a failure, and he could have turned those feelings around. He could have. and he still be alive too, because he's wrong for using his pastor role how he did, because that's already supposed to be an inherent trust. That was like just, it seemed like that was just his stomping grounds of who can I select next into the harem. You know what I mean? But yeah, he did not have to be. That's now. I'm not saying her killing him was right, but I'm just saying he also would have been alive had he been a better person, because it literally came from him being a very apathetic, uncaring, manipulative person. Shouldn't have resulted in death. But she did what she did, which is why she's got to be held accountable for what she did. But yes, had he actually just acted in his actual role, his capacity, that would have been better, because by the time someone's coming to the pastor, they're usually at their wit's end. And she was good with it until he wanted to break up with her. But that's the thing, you always probably going to eventually want to break up with that person. So you got the consequence going to come when they're crazy. Like, you just don't know. You don't know how it's going to show up.
You also heard from Dr. Bidding about this defense under Tennessee law called insanity. And what she said was, there's a defense in Tennessee. And if a person is of this mental state where you can't appreciate the wrongfulness of your actions, then they can be found not guilty of the crime, because there are two things, the act and the intent. And she said, this insanity applies when someone is not able to appreciate the wrongfulness of their actions because of their mental state. And I said, well, did you evaluate the defendant for the criteria for insanity? Yes, it was not there. Insanity the criteria were not met when I evaluated the defendant for that. You also heard Dr. Bidding talk about what she called diminished capacity, which in Tennessee is this: you might still be guilty of something, but you're not guilty of the more serious offense because your capacity is diminished because of your mental state. And again, I asked Dr. Bidding, a defense expert, a witness called by the defense, what about when you evaluated Latoshia Daniels for this diminished capacity? Didn't meet the criteria for that. Well, Dr. Bidding, the defense expert, what about post-traumatic stress disorder? Did she meet the criteria for that? No. No, she didn't meet the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. Dr. Bidding, the defense expert, does potentially wanting to harm herself, does that negate intention and premeditation? Can't say that it does negate intention and premeditation. Well, tell us, Dr. Bidding, about her mental state at the time she committed this offense. I'm unable to provide an opinion about her mental state at the time she committed this offense. What about Dr. Bidding's testimony did you find helpful? I found helpful the fact that she said she did appear to exercise judgment just prior to this homicide. And she did appear to engage in planning in the moments leading up to this homicide. So we've talked about she used judgment, had a cool, calm, and collected thought when she told Tabatha to get out of the way. I don't want to shoot you. Dr. Bidding says she has cool, calm, and collected thoughts all day, up to the moments before the homicide. Then we heard from Officer Duncan, who said he pointed, I saw her point the gun at herself. She was holding the gun. When I got to the door, I said, drop it. She pointed the gun at herself. At some point during that day, did she intend to harm herself? I don't doubt that. But I can tell you what she had at that moment. She had the judgment and reflection not to harm herself. She had the judgment and reflection not to point that weapon at the Carterville Police Department because they had a gun pointed at her. Where's the lack of judgment and reflection?
I think somebody just snorted to that microphone right before he said the sentence he just said. And it was probably defensive it happened because that man had been nodding off, but I heard somebody snore over the microphone.
Was she devastated? Was she in love? Were her feelings hurt?
Her feelings was hurt. There is an element in crime of passion that I do feel like they definitely could not give her, well, they shouldn't give her leeway on crime of passion, because it says in the crime of passion, there's no cooling off period. The killing must have happened immediately following the triggering event. If the defendant had enough time to calm down, reflect, and regain self-control before the act, the offense is no longer considered a crime of passion. And I think that if you have enough in your mind to tell the wife, get out of the way, I'm not trying to kill you or blah, 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 you know, I feel like you are still in some part of your right mind, because you know exactly who your target is, and there's no, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's some thought that crept into there where you weren't just out of your mind with anger, rage, or fear, or whatever, you know, the emotion would be.
Had she spent 2 years in a relationship with a married man and she realized he wasn't going to leave his wife? I don't doubt that. Did she know what she was doing? Yes. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for her. It's unfortunate for Brodes Perry's family. Unfortunate for the widow of Brodes Perry. That doesn't change what happened. Did she plan this all the way from Little Rock? And I'm going to change a little bit and talk about something different here. And I want to be very clear about what I mean when I'm doing this. I submit the proof shows that she did plan this from the time she got the text. But I want to talk about why I think that's not required. It's impossible to know what she was thinking because we can't read her mind. Was she planning to kill Brodes and herself? Maybe. That doesn't negate the fact that she killed Brodes. And then she.
Thank you. Exactly. Maybe she was trying to take herself out as well, but it's still, the ending is she's alive, he's dead. Exactly. Whatever self-deletion ideation she may have had, she's alive and he's dead. So I don't know how much you can lean on the whole self-deletion part. When again, she was pointing the weapon at her head and in her mouth. She did not do it. She's still here. But he got shot 5 times and he is dead. And she was reloading the gun.
Did it on purpose, intentionally, with premeditation. Did Brodes ask her to go to his house? I mean, his reaction says no. The history between the two of them says no. A hidden app. Got to have somebody with us. We went 2 years, we hadn't told her. He didn't want Tabatha to know. So the history between them indicates no. So the evidence is contrary to her description of what happened. And again, I'm going to emphasize that because I'm going to make another argument. But I want to read. The evidence is contrary to what she describes as happening. But it really doesn't matter. She's asking you to consider voluntary manslaughter. And kind of the difference is the killing resulted from a state of passion produced by adequate provocation from the alleged victim, sufficient to lead a reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. Well, there's no question she acted in an irrational manner, because it's hardly ever rational to point a gun and shoot a guy 7 times who's not threatening you, doesn't have a weapon, and is not even, there's not even a chance he's harming you physically. No, not even a history.
That is a high bar, actually. You have to have had reasonable provocation. Oh, highly provocative too. Yeah, so like this is the one I could think of. Sorry, this topic is about to be very, very dark. But for instance, if I had a kid and I walked in on an adult taking advantage of my kid, to me, that is a highly provocative reason to go into a crime of passion and that person got to die. You know what I mean? So but like they said, it was not self-defense. He wasn't attacking her. She hit her last straw when he wouldn't walk her to the car. Again, that's what I'm thinking. Like that was the last thing right there. Whether he did or didn't ask her to come back to his apartment and talk to his wife, which I don't think he did either. I'm with the prosecution on that one. But yeah, like highly provocative. I think that there's examples you can honestly think of. And if he's not posing an actual threat himself or doing something like that, then yeah, I think that's a really high bar to try to meet of crime of passion.
Of him harming you physically. So that's never a rational act. So the second part of that is very important because it can't be adequate provocation that makes Latoshia Daniels act in an irrational manner because she did. And all you would have to say is, yep, there was some provocation that made me act irrationally, so I'm not guilty of homicide. I'm not guilty of murder one. It says sufficient to lead a reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. Did what happened to her, is that enough to make a reasonable person act that way? To point a loaded gun at an individual who's unarmed and not threatening you and pull the trigger not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, not 6 times, but 7 times. Somebody talked to you about the classic law school example of voluntary manslaughter, where someone comes home and they find their spouse in bed with somebody else having an affair. And before they have time to reflect on that or cool down, they kill either their spouse or the person they're having the affair with. And that is the classic law school example. Latoshia Daniels doesn't fit the classic law school example. Her spouse was not having an affair. She didn't react immediately to some huge thing like that. Somebody hit my child or whatever. She knew this relationship was coming to an end. And she knew about this affair for 2 years. And she knew Tabatha didn't know about it. So again, it's not voluntary manslaughter. So I want to look at her story and set aside all the other evidence for just a moment. Not conceding there's not all the other evidence, but I want to just set it aside for a minute. What was the adequate provocation? He wouldn't walk me to the door, to my car. It's the only provocation I heard. Because right before that, she was talking, and she even made a decision. I feel like I'm being played, was what her testimony was. I'm embarrassed. I want to leave. Is that a person overcome that doesn't know what they're doing? And she had known since that morning he was ready for this relationship to end. And she had known for months that the relationship was not what it had been. That's not a provocation that would lead a reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. It may be provocation that would break your heart, that would hurt your feelings, that would cause you to be really upset and really mad and really regretful, maybe ashamed, maybe embarrassed. She told you why she did this. And And to convict, all you got to do is listen to her. She told Brodes. I don't know if he heard her because he had a bullet in his head. You broke my heart.
That's a cold line from prosecution. I don't know if he heard because he had a bullet in his head.
That's why she did it. The evidence suggests that she made the decision to kill him. Maybe herself that morning. But even if she made it when he declined to walk her to the car, it's first-degree murder. There's no time period required for premeditation. Some of the things you can look at, she shot an unarmed, unthreatening person. She was making decisions that she felt like she was being played. She was embarrassed. She was walking to the door. She reached in her pocket and pulled out the gun that she had brought into their home. She didn't go back out to her car to get the gun. Was it for protection from her car to the door, or did she forget it was there? We heard both sides of that story. And she shot him 7 times. And killed him. How can that not be intentional and premeditated? Even disregarding all the evidence except what she tells you, how can that not be intentional and premeditated? Especially considering Dr. Biting's testimony. And all the things she did. Tabatha, get out of the way. Not pointing the gun at the police. Not harming herself. Where was this total loss of judgment? She was hurt. She was mad. She was embarrassed. She didn't like what Brodes had done to her. What Brodes had done to her. I ask you to follow the law. Follow the evidence to it. And if you do that, I submit you'll find that she's guilty as charged on all 3 counts of the indictment. Thank you.
Yeah, a big part of theirs, we're going to the jury's verdict now. A big part of their argument that would stick with me again if I was a juror is he said, would a reasonable person have reacted how she reacted? And no, if you're pissed off, maybe you slash some tires. I wouldn't even slash tires. It's not me, but I'm just saying I could see how someone's like, might slash some tires or whatever. But nope, what she did was not a crime of passion. Okay, so let's see how long it took them to deliberate. Okay, well, the judge gives her instructions, and then the jury leaves out at about 6 hours and 36 minutes, and then they come back. Let me see here. So they took about an hour and a half, I think. I'm at 9 hours and 5 minutes when they come back, it looks like. So, all right, here we go. 2.5 hours.
All right, you may be seated. I understand the jury has reached a verdict. Yes, ma'am. However, you will be. You can stand and read the verdict. You should look for a verdict form.
Do I need to start from State of Tennessee versus Latoshia Daniels, indictment number 25-01253. Verdict form count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count 1 of indictment number 25-01253. State of Tennessee versus Latoshia Daniels, indictment number 25-01253. Verdict form count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of reckless endangerment as included in count 2 of indictment number 25-01253. State of Tennessee versus Latoshia Daniels, indictment number 25-01253. Verdict form count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty in count 3 of indictment number 25-01253.
Would you like the jury poll?
Yes, please.
All right. I'll start on this end. Is that your verdict?
Yes.
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 Is that your verdict? Is that your verdict?
Yes.
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 Now that you have concluded your service on this case, I thank you for your patience and conscientious attention to your duty as jurors. You have not only fulfilled your civic duty, but you have also made a personal contribution to the ideal of equal justice for all people. You may have questions about the confidentiality of the proceedings. Because the case is over, you are free to discuss the case with any person you choose. However, you do not have to talk to anyone about the case if you do not want to. If you tell someone you do not wish to talk about it and they continue to bother you, let the court know, for we can protect your privacy. If you do decide to discuss the case with anyone, I would suggest you treat it with a degree of solemnity, so that whatever you say, you will be willing to say in the presence of your fellow jurors or under oath here in open court in the presence of all the parties. Also, if you do decide to discuss the case, please respect the privacy of the views of your fellow jurors. Your fellow jurors fully and freely state their opinions and deliberations with the understanding that are being expressed in confidence. Again, I thank you for your willingness to give of your time.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to skip some of it, but I do have her sentencing here, so we can just go ahead and hear that part since we're already here. And I'd really like to close this chapter so we can get to some other trial stuff. So I'm gonna skip around, but I will also put this link in the description box so you can watch all of it if you feel like you missed out on too much. So we're gonna do. She speaks at her sentencing. So let's see here. I'm gonna speed them up while they talk too, because I see a few people on the stand. Okay, here we go.
I just need to make the precinct. You may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may call Andrika Brock.
Come on with me, man. Come to us. You stand here, face the judge. Raise your right hand.
Do you swear firmly to tell the whole truth?
I do.
You may have a seat, ma'am.
Can you please state and spell your name?
My name is Andrika Brock. That's Andreka. Last name Brock, Brock.
Ms. Brock, do you know Latoshia Daniels?
I do.
How do you know her?
By blood, she is my cousin. In life, she's my sister.
Have you prepared something that you wanted to read to the court today for the court's consideration on Latoshia's sentencing?
I have.
Would you please read that?
First of all, Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I first want to acknowledge the seriousness of this case and the loss that has occurred. Nothing that I say today is meant to minimize that. With a heavy heart, I'm here to ask for grace and mercy because I know my sister beyond this moment. I know her heart. I know her character. She is not defined by the worst moment of her life. She is a mother to 2 boys who love her deeply and need her. She has always been a present, nurturing, and devoted mother. I have watched her love them, fight for them, pray over them, and show up for them every single day. Latoshia has spent years helping others, counseling men, women, and children who were struggling in life. I watched her start and build a nonprofit to support other people and continue this mission even while facing her own struggles. She has always been the person that people leaned on and poured into these people consistently. But during one of the darkest times of her own life, she was struggling in many ways that we didn't fully see. And as her big sister, I carry that heavily because I feel like I failed her in some way. This does not excuse what happened. But I want you to know that this was not the act of a cold, heartless person. This was a broken person in pain who made a devastating decision. I know that she is remorseful. I've watched her up until trial continue to pour into this nonprofit, helping others, continuing to pour into others, all the while struggling herself. She is a woman who needs accountability, yes, but also compassion and the opportunity for redemption. Your Honor, I respectfully ask that you consider her full life, her service, her motherhood, her mental struggles, and the impact her absence will have on her boys. We're not asking you to ignore what happened. We're asking you for mercy within justice. Thank you.
You're under, next we would call DeAndre Davis.
Come forward, sir. Stand here. Face good. Raise your right hand.
You swear affirm to tell the whole truth?
I do.
I have to speak, sir.
Thank you. Would you please state and spell your name?
DeAndre Davis, DeAndre Davis, DeUndre, last name Davis.
Mr. Davis, do you know Latoshia Daniels?
I do.
How do you know her?
That's my mother.
Have you prepared some words for the court today that you
I
want
have.
her to know about your mom?
I have. I'm Gen Z, so they're on my phone if you don't mind. Mom, I don't ever think I've said this out loud, but you deserve to know. Watching you become a mother at a young age, it was so much being demanded from you than it should have been. As a young single mom, raising 2 boys, you carried responsibilities that most people don't fully understand. You didn't raise us, you protected us, guided us, and loved us with the strength that we could ever ask for. But things were hard, especially when things were hard. Later, when life changed, you became a wife while raising 3 boys. You had my little brother, and you kept going. You gave, and you gave. Even when you didn't feel appreciated, even when efforts seemed unseen, you made sure we always had what we needed, and somehow even the things we wanted, no matter what it cost you. You turned sacrifice into love, and that we didn't realize how much you was carrying. What hurts my heart the most, but fills it with so much admiration, is at the same time, it's knowing how much you were hurting emotionally, while still choosing to be strong for everyone else. You showed up every single day with a smile, encouragement, with love, never letting us see your pain. You put yourself last so we could feel safe, supported, and whole. You was always there for everyone, family, friends, anyone who needed you, while quietly feeling like no one was around for you. Even then, you didn't harden, you didn't stop loving, you didn't stop giving. You continued to put us and others before yourself, and again, because that's who you are. Your love shaped the people we became. Your strength taught us resilience, your sacrifice taught us empathy, and your heart taught us what's real and what unconditional love looks like. I see you now. I see everything you did. I see everything you endured. And I want you to know you were never invisible. And you were never alone. You're always appreciated. And you're the best mother I could ever ask for. Thank you for being our foundation, our safe place, and our example of selfless love. I'm proud to be your child. I'm proud to call you my mother. This storm doesn't last forever. God has never failed us, and he won't fail now. Stay kingdom focused and love up, because even through it all, we all we got. I love you, Mama.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I've called Latoshia Daniels to the stand.
Stand here. Face. Raise your right hand.
This is what I'm trying to tell all truth. I can't speak.
So,
Would you please state and spell your name?
Latoshia Daniels, Latoshia, Daniels, Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, you understand why we're here today.
Yes,
We're asking the court to consider mitigating factors for your spouse.
yes.
If at any point you need some water, or you just need a minute, let me know. Okay. Now, you testified at trial, right?
Yes.
So the judge will take into consideration everything that you've already testified to. So we're gonna focus on some things that you didn't testify about in the trial, okay?
Okay.
The first thing that I want to talk to you about is your family, okay? Can you please let the judge know who all is here for you today?
My son, DeAndre Davis. My sister cousin, Andrea Brock. My husband, Lonnie Nelson. My baby sister, Ebony Coben. My brother-in-law.
All right. I apologize if you came in here expecting a reaction from me in a way that is sad. I'm sad for her family. Now, I am sad for her family. Her sister cousin, she was going through it. The son is obviously going to go through it. The other sons that may or may not be in the courtroom right now are probably going to go through it because that's their mom, that's their family. I am surprised to hear that her husband is here at the sentencing. I am surprised about that. I wonder, because one of the things was how unfeeling he was towards Paulette. The defense's statements against that husband were so harsh that I am very surprised he's here. So I'm like, was it played up how bad he was to make her not look that bad with the whole cheating with the pastor thing? Because I forgot she was married when they were having the affair. I'm thinking it's a divorced woman in an affair with a married pastor. Until prosecution brought it back, I didn't even realize that she was still married. He's there for the kids. Leia's grandma. I forgot she had a husband too. I'm telling you, I thought he was in the past. You're right, Paulette. He's probably there for the kids, but y'all know I can cry. And I'm not gonna say, I don't want to say too much but the tears are not coming on this one for me, but I feel very bad for the family and friends of hers that are affected by her having to be incarcerated. And then I also think how sad she would have left them had she actually gone through with her own self-deletion. Because I'm like, they would have suffered either way, with her in prison or that she took her life. And so it sucks. But the husband being here, because the kid's an adult, I'm very surprised about this. I didn't know he was still in the picture. That's crazy. Okay, we'll keep going though. I didn't want to interrupt her once she started talking if I can help it.
Oh, sorry. My brother-in-law, Alpha Coben. My middle sister, Nicole Curley. My mother, Annie Marbray. My inner circle and dear friend, Karma Gardner. My lovely auntie, Barbara Ganaway. The matriarch of our family, Nettie Curley. My cousin, Frederick Daniels. Miss Tammy. My prayer warrior. My everything. Aunt Gladys, Curley, and Mr. Henry. And I also have LaShawn Hill and Janet Hill.
And Kendall Simmons as well.
Oh, yes.
As part of
Dang, that's a strong support system. I wish she could have fallen back on before she got to the point of having to be here like now. I wish she had a pool. That's the thing too. Okay, church, because I harped on. I wish with her being a licensed, what they say, a social. I don't want to say social worker because I don't know if that's what they said, but I wish with her being a licensed professional that she did give it a chance to go and seek some long-term therapy. I wish that had been one of her first things. The fallback is if it's more spiritual for her, I wish she had went to her prayer warrior Aunt Gladys then. because that's a spiritual person. She has a strong surrounding of people. It looks like, I mean, even now in her darkest part, she's, saying like that's who's there for her. I wish she had fallen back on them versus her life going how it went and the choices that she made.
Preparation for this hearing, did your friends and family prepare character letters?
Yes.
I'm going to pass you forward a pack of character letters and ask you if you recognize who these are from, okay?
Read them or just, like their name, just look to see.
If you want to just list off who they're from, you can. If the court would like that for the record.
Alpha Coben. Ebony Coben. Gladys Curley. LaShawn Dunn. Ingrid Green. Dr. LaShawn Hill. Miss Yvonne Williams. Janet Hill. I'm just gonna say CJ.
That's her son.
Dr. Latoshia Johnson. Annie Marbury. Amy R. Miller. Devin Smith. Marilyn Stewart. Kendall Summons. Jocelyn Thompson. Brenda Ellis Williams. Jaleesa Williams. Pastor Ronald Bailey. Karma Gardner. Dr. Hill and Amy Miller loved me. They said too. Oh, God. April Taylor.
Your Honor, I would ask that we have exhibit 8 is her audit from the sentencing memorandum. And Your Honor, that does include the ones filed with the sentencing memorandum as well as the additional ones received after that file. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Daniels, is there one very important person in your life who is not here today because they're no longer with us?
Yes,
Who is that?
my oldest son, Deontay Davis.
And when did he pass away?
November 8th, 2019, 4 months after I was incarcerated.
Did that pass away?
He died by suicide.
And were you able to go to his funeral?
No.
Sorry. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Paulette. Okay, let me try to go back. What I was saying is she has got to be kicking herself basically in the behind, because if her son died the way that she kept saying that she wanted to go out by self-deletion, and then he actually went through with it, and she's 4 months in and can't go to his funeral. Maybe she probably blames herself, like she could have seen the signs had she been out, all kinds of stuff. And her whole trial was about how she was gonna hurt herself. She wasn't trying to hurt anybody else. That's why it was a crime of passion. It wasn't premeditated and all this other stuff. That was her whole defense. And then she takes her son actually does take his life. Hold on, am I caught up now? Can y'all hear me now? Just want to make sure. Before I keep going. Can y'all hear me? I know it's a delay, so I just want to make sure. My mic should be unmuted now. Sorry, replay gang, just skip over this part. I'm trying to make sure they can hear me. Can y'all hear me? Okay, Mindy's okay, so I think so. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear me then. So I'm just thinking about how crazy it is that she cannot be there for her eldest based on what she may honestly be clinically, she may be, oh my gosh, diagnosed with actual depression and everything. And then her son, obviously he had it as well. I also wonder, did it contribute to his mom being incarcerated that also had it, or he already was struggling, nothing to do with this? Unfortunately, it might have been inevitable, but it's just crazy that her whole defense was about how she was actually trying to take her life. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just, oh, and her son went out that way. That is crazy. Yeah, like 30 something people in her circle for character witnesses. I think that's what you're saying, for her good. Yeah, she had a tribe. She didn't lean on her tribe. She was probably embarrassed, which is why I just kept saying I wish she had just seen a professional stranger to get medical help. That's what I wish, because I understand you might have the best people, but you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want them to look at you differently. So I'm not even faulting her for going outside of her circle. I just wish she had gone to something that would help her translate those feelings and not go to the extreme of taking somebody's life.
Did you hear that last one?
Yes.
Now, I want that shift here, okay? I want to talk to you about your employment, okay? I'm going to pass you forward the document. And tell me if you recognize it.
This is my resume.
Okay. Tell me kind of a general breakdown of your employment history.
Before incarceration, I was a clinical mental and behavioral health therapist where I was in private practice for many years.
I'm so sorry. I had to stop there because I kept, and I feel like day one, y'all told me her occupation, then I missed it, caught back up to y'all probably by day 2 of the trial. And then when they stated her, I guess her most recent occupation was more like the social working side of it. But I was like, I thought it was something about, I was thinking mental health, but behavioral health is what was said, you know. And see, that's why I just keep going back to, of the people, she had the tools, even though you can't, you're going to be your worst patient. You're going to be your worst, like a lawyer would be his worst client or her worst client. A doctor would be their worst patient. So I get that. I just wish they had went to somebody else in their field. That's all I'm saying. Like she knows what's available.
I also founded a nonprofit organization called Links of Love.
What does Links of Love do?
We help, well, after incarceration, we started doing business as Love 365. And at that time, we began to help young adults navigate through life, to be spiritually, mentally, and emotionally healthy while navigating through life, so that they may build resilience and thrive through life.
And that was, you expanded on that after you were released on bond.
Yes.
What else did you do employment-wise while you were on bond?
I worked at Whataburger where I started off at the bottom and within 6 months became the restaurant trainer. I left that position and went and began to become a barista at a local coffee cafe.
Do you think that's because she lost her license already? That she had to go do that? Like work at Whataburger and stuff like that?
Does that resume accurately reflect your employment history and your educational history?
Yes, I also started a business where I became a life coach.
Your Honor, I'd ask that that be the next exhibit.
Any objection?
No, sir.
So, within this resume is exhibit C.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels, I'm handing you another pack of photographs. Do you recognize those photographs?
All right, this is where you're going to have to use the link because I'm about to skip through the pictures she's naming. We're going to go to the next part of her being on the stand. I'm not going through all these names again.
Acts have you done?
Before incarceration, I was involved in numerous community organizations where I did community service all the time through my sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho, being a member of Eastern Star, Prince Hall affiliated, the National Social Workers Association, Black Social Workers Association. I was always involved in community service, even through my church.
Did you continue community service after being released out on bond?
I did that through my nonprofit as I work with the young adults.
Did you have more than just those two activities, or were just those just the two that we have pictures of?
Those are just the two that we have pictures of.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels, I'm handing you a stack of books. If you would please look through those.
I'm skipping again. I'm not just listening to her read all these books out loud. I'm not doing it.
We'll back up just a minute. Do you recognize those documents?
I do.
What are those?
These are photographs of my degrees.
Okay. And
Now that I've seen the family, I'm trying to not say as much that's been on my mind. Hopefully they, hopefully they never see this because I don't have it. I don't have it. We're going to keep going after her degrees are listed because it just keeps making me think like, dang it, you knew about the tools.
what did she diagnose you with? And when you got out, did you resume mental health treatment?
I did.
Who did you see?
I saw Amy Miller.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. They said resume. So now I need to see how long was she getting treatment. Hold on.
Okay. What were you doing prior to incarceration?
Prior to incarceration, I had began to do individual therapy.
Prior to incarceration, but after the murder or before the murder? Hold on. I got to go back some, get full context. Yeah, because it's one thing to seek it anytime. But my thing was always, I wish she had sought it before she committed the murder. So I need to make sure that they're not saying she actually was getting mental health treatment before the murder, then after the murder, prior to incarceration.
Doctor of social work.
I misspoke. You're a doctor.
Yes.
Your Honor, if we could make those the next letter exhibit, I believe that would be that.
Any objection? No. All right. So the defendant's degrees marked as exhibits.
And somebody tells Miss Cheyenne Bryant that with this woman being incarcerated, they still can see her degrees and know that she actually is licensed and is a doctor.
And Ms. Daniels, you've dedicated your life to studying and learning about mental health, right?
Yes.
But you yourself have struggled with mental health difficulties.
Yes.
As part of that struggle, since being incarcerated and even before, had you sought mental health professional care?
I have.
Okay. What were you doing prior to incarceration?
Prior to incarceration, I had began to do individual therapy.
Okay. Now, what about when you went into custody?
When I went into custody, there's not a lot there, but I did have the ability to talk to one of the clinicians that come in that's on contract.
And you took advantage of that. You did see the psychologists available within the facility?
Yes.
And when you got out, did you resume mental health treatment?
I did.
Who did you see?
I saw Amy Miller.
And that was an individual that provided a letter to the court.
Yes.
How long did you see Amy Miller?
I saw her the entire time that I was out on bond.
Okay.
So for 2.5 years.
Did she ever give you any clinical diagnoses?
She did.
What did she diagnose you with?
She did major depression and PTSD.
And then as part of our preparations for trial, did you go through a psychological evaluation with Dr. Bitting?
I did.
Do you recall Dr. Bitting's diagnosis?
Major depression, avoidant personality, and borderline personality.
Do you recognize, while you're in custody this time, do you intend to continue to pursue mental health treatment?
I have pursued it.
Tell me about that.
I have met with Dr. Mason, who is in the facility.
Why does that matter?
Being mentally healthy is part of my overall well-being. And so I am dedicated to living and I want to be healthy.
And are we sitting here today because of a mental health crisis?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about while you're in custody, okay? You've been in custody since the verdict came back, right?
Yes.
Have you availed yourself of any other opportunities within the facility?
Yes, the facility has where you can go onto a tablet and complete various courses. And so I took advantage of doing those courses while I've been incarcerated.
Your Honor, may I pass forward a group of documents?
Yes.
Do you recognize what those are?
Yes, these are the certificates I've gotten from completing various courses.
Would you please, for the record, read what course they are and their date of completion?
Entrepreneurship, November 2025.
Nope. I just wanted to hear the first one. Y'all can go back. That's at the 35-minute mark. If you want to go back in the link and go over that. No.
Are you still pursuing betterment?
No, I'm pursuing betterment.
Now we're moving into the closing end of things, okay? I know that there are some apologies that you wanted to make and some words that you wanted to say to the court. So now is your time and your opportunity to do that, okay?
Your Honor, to this court, if I may start with the Perry family. To the Perry family, no words can express the pain that I feel, nor will it ever take away the pain that you feel. But I want to say to you that I'm godly sorrowful. And I know it doesn't take back what has happened, nor does it negate what has happened. But I want you to know that I am so sorry for the pain that I've caused you. To Tabatha, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. And I pray that all of you guys will forgive me. But please know, I never meant for any of this to happen. To my family, I'm so sorry that I've taken you guys through this. Never meant to hurt or harm anyone. And I'm so godly sorrowful. Judge, I know what I did. I wasn't in the best health. And I know it doesn't take away what happened. But please, know that I'm godly sorrowful. And I ask that you extend grace and mercy.
That's all I have.
Cross-examination.
No question.
You may step in, ma'am.
Since she didn't clarify, I do wonder, this is just how my brain works, is she sorry for hurting her physically by accidentally shooting her? Or is she sorry for hurting her with the 2.5-year affair? I just want to know because I'm curious. Tabatha, the wife, not ex-wife, but the wife of the victim, probably, I don't know if she has a forgiving heart or not, but I would like to know which hurt were you talking about? Because she was fine with sitting in that woman's face and playing tennis with her and stuff like that.
State, I think you said you had better that you got.
I do, as part of my argument is what I was
Okay.
gonna do.
Okay, all right, final argument. Is it argument today?
So, I filed some enhancement factors, and I want to talk about those briefly, and then I also want to talk about one that wasn't in my filing. So the first is there's more than one victim, and had the jury, and this applies also to 3. that I'm talking about now, but it also applies to 12 as far as this argument goes. Had the jury come back and convicted of criminal intent murder and included that wasn't misdemeanor reckless endangerment.
You said 3 and what was the other?
12.
3 12. Okay.
And 12 is the action resulting in serious bodily injury to the victim not intended. So the argument against those would be that because Ms. Archie was a victim in another county indictment, that you couldn't use that to enhance count 1 of the indictment or the murder 2. But because the jury didn't find, particularly as to 12, with reckless endangerment doesn't require injury. It just requires, and if you from the statute, a person commits an offense who recklessly engages in conduct that places or may place another person in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. So our argument is that those 2 factors can apply because of the jury's verdict. They didn't find Ms. Daniels guilty of particularly injuring Ms. Perry, but even Ms. Perry was necessarily a victim. That just is she committed an act that may have placed another person in serious bodily.
Okay, I'll again. I stopped him at 41:25ish. So you can go back if you want to watch that. I want to see. I want to see if they're gonna give victim impact statements, but I don't see that. It's interesting that only her side talked from what I could see. So we're gonna go to the defense, see what they're saying. If they're just more going over the statutes, I'll skip that and keep going to where the actual sentencing is said.
Sentencing of random. One person was killed, another person seriously injured. I submit a lot of proof of premeditation. The sentence should be closer to the top of the range, and we'd ask the court to sentence her.
The defense found a bunch of mitigating factors. Do you have a position on those?
Okay. Your Honor, first to address Mr. McAlpin's statement, the situation regarding her son, that would not have been appropriately before the jury. That would not have been irrelevant to the proceedings before the jury. That happened after this offense. So that is why that did not come up to the jury. And Ms. Daniels is the one who provided that information to probation for it to have been included in the report. So I would disagree with the fact that she has never mentioned that before. The state did not file intent to seek consecutive sentencing in this matter. And the state argued more enhancement factors than it actually filed on. But I believe I have addressed all of the enhancement factors in my sentencing memorandum. To go through.
Okay, yeah, they are going through more of. So basically, defense is arguing for the lesser of the range of the sentencing, and prosecution is like, we have enough. We need you to go higher in the range of years you're going to sentence her to. So let's see.
Through the mental health crisis that she.
Okay, yeah. So now we're gonna go to the judge. It must be at the very, very end. Okay.
I would ask the court to find the mitigators and not find the enhancers and sentence her 13.5 years as an especially mitigated sentence. If Your Honor does find that the firearm offense applies as an enhancement factor, I would ask the court to still find the mitigators that we have provided proof for in the record. And with that enhancement factor, which I would submit is the only enhancement factor that may be able to apply, that the court grant Ms. Daniels a 15-year sentence with the misdemeanor reckless endangerment run concurrently. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Nico? No. Are you take a brief recess? Take a recess.
Goes down to the brief recess.
I know I didn't just watch all this and didn't hear the sentence. Hold on. Oh, I felt so. Hold on. Let me see. Court TV. Where is her actual? Oh my gosh. I don't even. Oh my gosh. Well, I know how long she got because of Google, but I was looking for the judge to read it out loud. Hold on. We have to go virtual. Let's see. Or not virtual, but to Google. All right. So Google says Daniels was sentenced to 20 years in prison for second-degree murder and 11 months and 29 days for reckless endangerment. Those sentences will run concurrently. Tabatha and 2 of Perry's sisters joined the sentencing hearing via Zoom, according to prosecutors. Court TV, why didn't we have all that? Okay, but there's her sentencing. So, all right, cool beans. So that's it. We have closed out Latoshia Daniels. I got to struggle through a way to get through discussing Carmelo Anthony's trial. And we'll see from there after that. But I had to, I didn't want to leave y'all hanging on another trial or anything like that. So yeah, hopefully this week we can go ahead and talk about Carmelo Anthony's trial. It was weird because when I was in Texas this weekend, I was going through Collin County back and forth. Didn't realize the relation to it because I was not keeping up with that trial. Y'all brought it to my attention, but very weird to find that out when I was down there. Yeah. So we'll talk about that hopefully later this week. I feel like I will have some opinions y'all will agree with, and there might be some that y'all are like, no, it was concurrently. So she got 20 years that she has to actually serve because the 11, what was it? Yeah, 20 years she actually got. And then, are you talking about Carmelo Anthony's sentencing? Because he got 35, I think. You might be talking about Carmelo Anthony's. You tired of it, Mindy? I know. So yeah, we're done with that one. We'll see what y'all think about my opinions of the Carmelo Anthony trial. But all right, y'all. I'll talk to you later. I'm gonna go rest my eyes. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Replay gang, I appreciate y'all when y'all come through. Okay. Yeah, Traveling Gma, if it's super triggering, don't watch it because I don't even know what to say before I just get in there. But yes, just go ahead and thank you for the pre-like. But yeah, if it's too triggering, I get it. I don't even like doing these. I didn't realize what his trial was about when I said that. So now I do know. And I'm like, ooh, this is why I just try to take y'all to the professionals on those. Like I am humble. I know I just don't have it the way other people have it. They're way better at it. Maybe even more cathartic about it. I don't know. So I'm gonna struggle and I'm gonna get through it. But I appreciate that. Yes, just go ahead and don't put yourself through that. You too, Paulette. Thank you. Have a good evening, Mindy. I'll see you later. All right, bye, y'all.